Welcome to a place for those in search of truth and conviction, a place where we discuss culture, politics, philosophy, and everything in between. I'm Luke, and I'm here with Russ. This is Hardly Strictly Politics.
Yes, indeed, dear listener. The HSP boys are back in the saddle once again for episode number 36. Thank you so much for jumping in the saddle with us. 36 is such an elegant number. We've got an elegant show put together for you today, if I may say. 2 separate continents, 2 separate countries, 2 separate rounds of playoffs in the house. The Dallas Stars have matriculated to round 2 of the NHL playoffs, and I'll get to a little bit more about that in a second. 2 separate adult beverages, just to make it fair, and 2 separate cups of coffee fee. 2 separate fact shamings, 2 separate paths to the same inevitable terminus. 36, dear listener, I don't even know where to begin. One of my very, very favorite numbers. 6 times 6 is 36. 2 squared times 3 squared. Actually, it's 1 squared times 2 squared times 3 squared. All 3 of the first prime numbers squared and multiplied equal 36. Missed it. 36 inches is exactly 1 year in the common standard, the God tier standard. 36 chambers. And now, 36 miles ahead of us on this trail today, so let's not tarry. Let's saddle up and ride into episode number 36, which is in the house, presently. Find us on Facebook at Zero Gravity Med. Same thing on Twitter at Zero Gravity Med. And you can always find us right here in our own house. Send us email at feedback@zero-gravity-media.com. That's feedback at zero-gravity-media.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and TuneIn, all 3 under Zero Gravity Media. Find us on YouTube. Look for Zero Gravity Media and our Zero G logo. We did 1 new short snippet this week, so check us out on YouTube, dear listener. You're going to like it a lot. Right on by our website and leave us some feedback using the contact form. That's zero-gravity-media.com and zero-gravity-media.com/contact. Send us your written content. We'd be most honored and delighted to host you on our website. And check out Luke's new article entitled The Retreat to Complexity. Dear listener, Luke's article is actually getting more hits than HSP itself right now. So check it out. Right on by and enjoy it. Now, this is in the context of my intro being too long, which has been true. My apologies. But I got no complaints from last week's shout-outs, so we're going to do it like that one mo again. We're calling out the OGs, the Diamond Club, the 36 Mile Club, you intrepid and loyal regulars, only those who know this trail and know how to ride with us, the absolute loyal trailblazers who are with us each and every single week. Everybody else you want to shout out? Why, I'll tell you how to do that once we get through this roster of our utmost. We got Shreveport, Baton Rouge, and Nolens, Tulsa and Norman, Oklahoma, Roosevelt, Utah, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, San Jose, Redding, Bakersfield, Los Angeles, and Bellflower, California, Mesa, Arizona, Dallas, Plano, Arlington, Houston, The Woodlands, San Antonio, Rowlett, College Station, Mejia, and Galveston, Biloxi, Mississippi, Auburn, Alabama, Miami, and West Palm Beach, Tazewell, Tennessee, Memphis, and Nashville. Now, everybody in Tennessee, sorry for that hockey series, Preds fans, but thank you so much for just an absolutely fantastic series. And thank you for your dignity in Game 6. That was very commendable, very respectable. Much respect to you and your team. I might ask that you help us beat the Blues for you now. And by the way, dear listener, okay, now, like I said, the Stars have made it to round 2 of the playoffs. The Stars are now playing the St. Louis Blues. This is a storied and age-old rivalry. I've actually got the game on right now in the background, so forgive me if I'm a little bit distracted and unfocused. I'm going to do my best today, but the puck has dropped. The score right now is Dallas Stars 3, St. Louis Blues 1, and we're still in the first period. Back to this trail. Howdy, Ashburn, Virginia Beach, and West Point. D.C. always. New York City always. Boston always. We got Royal Tunbridge Wells always. London, Manchester, Glasgow, Warsaw, Budapest, Moscow always. Da Nang always. Hong Kong and Bangkok always. Sydney and Melbourne always. G'day, mates. You are the posse, dear listeners. You are the OGs. Luke and I would trust you to blaze this trail in our stead. Now, we know that there are a lot more of y'all than this. One mo again, you want to shout out? Leave us some feedback. Stay here on the trail with us each and every single week. Reach out to other dear listeners on this trail. Trust that you are welcome and in good company, and all will fit into place, and I will give you a shout out and be most delighted to do so. If you want to earn extra bonus points, send us some content. Send articles for the website, topics that maybe we've neglected, links that maybe we didn't talk about that you wanted to hear about. And this is for everybody in the purview of our dulcet tones right now. By all means, including the Diamond Club, keep us sharp. Challenge the HSP boys, please. and you will get bonus points directly from Hardly Strictly Politics. Now, I'm kind of kidding and not kidding, dear listener. This isn't a contest. This is an exercise. This is pleasure. This is the truth, and this is true fellowship. So thank you so much. We love each and every single one of y'all. Now, we're going to do things a little bit differently going forward. Luke just had this idea right before we hit the red button today. We're going to announce each week the winner of the city with the most listens. There's going to be a winner each week. So it's not really a contest, but we're fixing to make a contest. Speaking of contests, right? And the winner this week, city with the most listens, is, drum roll please, Ashburn, Virginia. Thank you so much, Ashburn. We don't know what to say. We love y'all so much. You're in this saddle with us every single week, and Luke and I deeply appreciate it so much. All right, Luke, we got 36 miles, man. What we got on the trail map today?
All right, so on the trail map for this week, we've got yet again, another slow news week, which I am perfectly okay with. It's easy on us, easy to do a show, and those seem to be the best shows anyway. So we are going to start out the show hitting a Ukrain Spygate connection. We're going to move on to the Democrats leveling up on their leftist platform, which is giving terrorists the right to vote. You know, Russ, I've been thinking a lot about maybe we should come up with a list of like all the main Democratic field of candidate policy prescriptions.
Yeah.
So we've got like, you know, pro late term abortion. We've got giving terrorists the rights to vote. We've got, what else do we have?
Lowering
Just like,
the voting age to 16, taking away everybody's guns.
open borders. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. They've become so unhinged. It's insane.
Yeah.
We've got break audio. What's our first break audio, Russ?
We've got Larry Elder talking about, he's a black conservative commentator, been in the business for forever, 30 plus years as a radio host, talking about reparations. And he gave it at a convention this weekend. I'll announce it more when we get there. Solid stuff, man. Great audio. Can't wait to play it.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear it. Afterwards, we'll move into NSA recommending that they drop their phone surveillance programs.
Yeah.
We will move into some updates on the Democratic field, the presidential field. So Warren announcing that she wants to destroy most of the source of energy for modern civilization. We have Biden's latest gem, which is always exciting. We have Kamala Harris, and I'm getting Bernie. We're gonna hit Bernie as well.
Yep.
So all very white pilling stuff. It's just you just can't make this stuff up. It's so wonderful. Afterwards, we'll move into Micheal Cohen getting cucked by Tom Arnold. I told Russ I didn't want to know what this was about because I know it's going to make me laugh, and I want to catch that live, so I can't wait to hear that. Then we'll hit break. We'll do a quick update on the lifestyle challenge, and then we'll go into a little grab bag special that we got for you. Hopefully it's good. If not, we'll just cut it out of the show, but it should be good. I think it will.
Yeah, I listened to a tiny little bit of it. It sounded pretty solid, man. Yeah, it sounded good.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyways, Russ, why don't you kick off the show, episode 36, with Ukrain Spygate?
All right. So let's get right into it. Once again, my apologies. First and foremost, dear listener, Luke and I said last week that we didn't ever want to talk about Spygate ever again, but the left is just simply not going to let this go. They're banging the impeachment drums. They are throwing everything they can at the president. Nothing is sticking. So, Luke,
I honestly, at this point, don't want them to let it go, to be honest with you.
Yeah, true, man, true. I mean, it's putting runs on the board for us. There's no question about it. And I must also say that you did predict last week. You're like, oh, man, we'll be talking about Spygate again next week.
Yeah,
right you
for
are,
sure.
Man. Right you are. Here we are talking about it again. So, but we're going to try to hit it and quit it kind of quickly, dear listener. Maybe have kind of a shorter segment one, play a little bit more of the Larry Elder audio break because it's fantastic. But we're going to combine Ukrain and Spygate into one segment. And these are really two different topics, but we're combining them into one segment for a specific reason. And I'll tell you when we get there what's going on. There have been some developments this week. Some, dare I say, bombshell, even though I hate that word, but there really have been. They came in the form of 3 articles written by number 1, John Solomon, number 2, Sarah Carter, number 3, Catherine Herridge for Fox. Okay. They all 3 dropped Thursday night. Pretty explosive stuff going on, so let's just kind of take them in order. Let's start with the Solomon piece from The Hill. I'm going to take it from the lead. It goes thus. This requires a little bit of concentration, so bear with us. The January 2016 gathering, confirmed by multiple participants and contemporaneous memos, brought some of Ukraine's top corruption prosecutors and investigators face to face with members of former President Obama's National Security Council, the FBI, the State Department, and the DOJ. The agenda suggested the purpose was training and coordination, but Ukraine participants said it didn't take long, during the meetings and afterward, to realize that the Americans' objective included two politically hot investigations, one that touched Vice President Joe Biden's family, and one that involved a lobbying firm linked closely to then-candidate Trump. Now, I'm going to take a time out from this article. This meeting in question right now, dear listener, what is really interesting about this is that Joe Biden himself was present in this meeting. He was there. I take it from paragraph 3 right here. U.S. officials, quote, kept talking about how important it was that all of our anti-corruptions be united, said Andriy Telizhenko, then a political officer in the Ukraine embassy in Washington tasked with organizing the meeting. Telizhenko, who no longer works for the Ukraine embassy, said U.S. officials volunteered during the meetings, one of which was held in the White House's old executive office building, that they had an interest in reviving a closed investigation into payments to U.S. figures from Ukraine's Russia-backed Party of Regions. The FBI shut down the case without charging Manafort. Telizhenko said he couldn't remember whether Manafort was mentioned during the 2016 meeting, but he and other attendees recalled DOJ officials asking investigators from Ukraine's National Anti-Corruption Bureau, NABU, if they could help locate new evidence about the Party of Regions payments and its dealings with Americans. Quote, it was definitely the case that led to the charges against Manafort and the leak to U.S. media during the 2016 campaign. Okay, so you see what's going on here. The U.S. calls Ukraine and says, hey, we want to have you over here. We want to talk about, security measures and anti-corruption and all this kind of stuff. No. What they were doing long before Manafort ever even joined the campaign, they had the long knives out and they were sharpening the long knives for Manafort. Probably, I would respectfully suggest that what was going on here is that the Trump campaign was already under surveillance. The investigation had already started long before the government cops to when the investigation started. And they probably received some communications between Manafort and Trump that Trump was thinking about bringing Manafort on as campaign manager. Okay? That's why they started sharpening the knives for Manafort. That's why he just went downtown right now. It's all of these charges about Ukraine lobbying on behalf of the Party of Regions political party, which also I've mentioned in previous episodes, Tony Podesta of the Podesta firm was also lobbying. He was working with Manafort, lobbying for the Party of Regions. Okay? Little bit more context about what's going on here. Ukraine started getting leads that what was happening is that in Ukraine, there was corruption going on where intel was being fed to the Democrat Party. And they were trying to get the Democrats this information to tilt the election in favor of Hillary. Okay? Also, at this same time, this investigation was already started back then. At the same time, Ukraine, as I just read in this piece, was already investigating Biden's son for the kickback scheme that was going on. Remember, Biden traveled over there with then Vice President Biden. Hunter Biden traveled with him, and all of a sudden, this money spigot to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars per month got hot, right? It really seriously looks like Biden brokered a deal with Gazprom and the Ukraine government to throw kickbacks to his son, okay? Well, they started getting hip to this in Ukraine, and they started really investigating this, right? Remember, the article just said when the U.S. government invited them over to the U.S. to talk about corruption and stuff, they thought that they were going to be asked about the Biden case. But no, we don't want the Biden case. In fact, let the FBI take over that case. We're just going to let that case, you don't need to investigate that. Let the FBI do it. Ukraine was like, yeah, not so much. But the FBI took the case, opened it, and closed it. Literally did no investigating before they closed it. Oh, no corruption here. Nothing to see here. Well, then the next step that happened, as we've reported both in Bots, Thoughts, and Drops and here in HSP, Biden then went over to the Ukraine and had the investigator that was investigating his son fired. This is going to blow up in Biden's face bigly. Bank on it, dear listener. This is not going away. And this is actually starting to make mainstream media now. People are starting to understand, all right, number one, Biden was crooked as hell. He was colluding with the Ukraine government to get kickbacks for his son. He was working with their intelligence agencies to get information and get it to the Democrat Party, anti-Trump information for Hillary to use to tilt the election in Hillary's favor. Okay? Now, we're going to leave that right here for just a little bit. Okay? But I do want to say, there's been a really interesting development that happened right after Luke and I hit the red button, or the black button, when we stopped recording on Sunday, okay? And that is this. Petro Poroshenko, the comedian in Ukraine, landslid Zelensky, oh gosh, I'm sorry, Zelensky, my bad.
Zelensky Auto Parts?
Yeah, totally, dude, yeah. Zelensky is the comedian, and he landslid Poroshenko in the Ukraine election, okay? Poroshenko was the president in place in Ukraine who was working with Biden and the Democrat Party. He's now out of the picture, right? Zelensky was elected with a prime mission of draining the Ukraine swamp, just like Donald Trump. So, like, you think for a minute Joe Biden's fixing to get out of this hot water? Ukraine's not going to let that happen, right? Even if the FBI tries to open and shut this investigation and turn a blind eye to it, Ukraine's not going to let them get away with it. Very interesting developments.
So, sorry if you mentioned this already, but a couple of episodes ago, you mentioned some Ukrainian investigator who was like coming up with a vengeance. He got removed from some position or something, and now he's back.
Yeah, that's right. I've got that stuff here. He is now the NABU, the Anti-Corruption Bureau's chief investigator. He is now investigating this. And yeah, man, he got fired from his job. It wasn't the one that involved Joe Biden. Joe Biden didn't get him fired. It was another guy, right? But he actually got fired in like 2010 or 2012 by Poroshenko. And I think actually had to do some time downtown, man. He sat in jail. And he worked his way up once he got out of jail back up into this lead prosecutor position. And he is absolutely lopping off heads right now, man. This is true. Yeah.
This
is a true story. Yep. Crazy stuff, man. Like, dude, Biden is in so much deep shit. He has he's so stupid, Luke. I think that actually it's either stupid or arrogant, right? He really just thinks that he's so much above it all that he can declare, candidacy for president, go around, smelling women's hair and all this kind of weird stuff and just never suffer any consequences. He really believes he is that much above the law, I think. Or he's just an idiot, man. I don't know. But like, if I was, what would you do if you were in this much hot water, Luke? I'll tell you what I would do. I would stay out of the media, right? I would stay out of the media. I would probably leave the country or something like that, Yeah.
Yeah.
If I was that guilty and I knew it, oh, man. So.
Yeah, he, I don't know. I can't help but to think that there's a reason he waited so long to declare his candidacy.
Yeah, they talked about it. I've got that audio from The View pulled up, and right before we hit the red button, I was listening to a little bit of it, and he kind of gave a, sort of flimsy justification for why he waited so long. But it was really interesting how that went down. They were supposed to blast the day before they did. He was supposed to have an announcement event, and his campaign staff cut it, knocked it off, like 10 minutes before he was supposed to go live. They're like, yeah, no, we're not doing this, right? They seemed really nervous about something. What they ostensibly said is that they didn't think that he was in a position to make as much money in fundraising as Beto and Uncle Bernie did, right? And that they thought it would be a political embarrassment to the campaign. So they did it in that video form anyway. You know what I mean? But like, yeah, he had some cold feet there, and you're right to mention that. Like, what was it? What took him so long to get into the fray? And I don't know, man. Maybe he realized that this water's getting a little too hot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just odd. I mean, we don't really have that reason why, but
yeah,
it's worth mentioning that it's just odd. There's a reason for it, and I don't think that the reason that he gave is the real reason.
Right. Yeah, I'm right there with you on that. All right, dear listeners, so we're still on Ukraine, but we're going to kind of shift to Spygate just a little bit, and we still have a greater narrative that we need to tie up here just a little bit. I'm going to get back to that in just a second. So this article from Sarah Carter dropped right about the same time that John Solomon's article dropped on Thursday night. I'm going to take it from the lead. It goes thus. Senior Republican chairman submitted a letter Thursday to Department of Justice Attorney General William Barr revealing new texts from former FBI Special Agent Peter Strzok to his paramour FBI attorney, Lisa Page, showing the pair had discussed attempts to recruit sources within the White House to allegedly spy on the Trump administration. Now, the article goes on, and it's very well written, but I'm just going to go ahead and sum it up for you in the interest of time. What they did is they went after Mike Pence's chief of staff and tried to flip him for the FBI to spy on the Trump campaign. That's literally what they did, right? Whether or not any of that spying happened, I don't know. But it certainly looks very bad for Pence's chief of staff. And I might also say by extension, it doesn't look very good for Mike Pence as well. Now, you know, Trump is a very forgiving guy, right? He's also getting a little bit tired of this BS, right? And if there's any suggestion that Mike Pence is dirty that comes out in the next few months that he's been involved with this spying campaign or this spying organization on the Trump campaign, man, I don't know that he will be selected to be vice presidential candidate. Once again, purely speculation, but it does not look good, okay? All right, so now I'm going to read the Heritage piece, all right? Text messages between former FBI officials Peter Strzok and Lisa Page indicate they discussed using briefings to the Trump team after the 2016 election to identify they could, quote, develop for potential relationships, track for lines of questioning, and assess changes in demeanor. Language one GOP lawmaker called more evidence of irregular conduct in the original Russia probe. Any improper FBI surveillance activities that were conducted before or after the 2016 election must be brought to light and properly addressed, the senators wrote. Okay. Now, this was Grassley and Johnson, right? They said this in their letter they wrote to William Barr. So, let's ask a couple of basic questions here, okay? Luke, I thought we had all of Strzok and Page's texts, except for the ones that had to be redacted for sources and means stuff. Why are these texts just now coming to light? Why are Grassley and Johnson just now declassifying these, unredacting these, and sending them to William Barr? Why didn't this happen months ago? I mean, I have no idea. It's just a rhetorical question. I have no idea.
If you don't, I don't.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
It should have happened months ago, right? But anyway, no, here we are, damn near in May of 2019, and just now these are coming out, finding out that Peter Strzok and Lisa Page tried to weaponize Trump's own administration against himself. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it. But the way I want to tie this back to Ukraine is this, okay? This is Spygate right here. What was going on in Ukraine, that is Spygate, right? It's never been about Trump, Russia, Trump, Russia, Trump, Russia. It has always been about Ukraine and the Dems, Ukraine and the Dems, Ukraine and the Dems, and the FBI trying to weaponize the intelligence organization against the Trump organization, against his whole team. That's what this has always been about. There is actually Spygate. There is actual collusion. It is in the form of Democrat collusion with Ukraine. And this is now coming out, and this is going to get very, very, very serious, right? Now, I've got a little bit of audio to that effect right here. I've got it put together for you. See if I can call it up. Yeah, here it is. So Trump was interviewed by Sean Hannity also on Thursday night. And let me just play the clip for you. Sean Hannity asked the president this. Here it is right here.
There was the original application, 3 subsequent renewal applications. We are told, Andrew McCabe said, no dossier, no FISA warrant. That was a backdoor to your campaign before the election. Right. The dossier also was leaked to the Washington Post, parts of it, and Isikoff and David Corn to the American people, and, of course, never verified. Do you have plans to release those FISA applications, Gang of 8 information, the 302s of Bruce Orr and others, and the 5 buckets that John Solomon and Sarah Carter, as they call them?
I do. I have plans to declassify and release. I have plans to absolutely release. But I have some very talented people working for me, lawyers. And they really didn't want me to do it early on. Devin Nunes, by the way, and Meadows, and you look at Jim Jordan, and so many of the people they worked so hard. And a lot of people wanted me to do it a long time ago. I'm glad I didn't do it. We got a great result without having to do it, but we will. One of the reasons that my lawyers didn't want me to do it is they said, if I do it, they'll call it a form of obstruction. So they'll say, oh, you released these documents. So we would make all of this information transparent. You know, in politics, you always hear transparency. Would make it transparent, and then they'd call it obstruction, knowing the people we're dealing with. So, frankly, I thought it would be better if we held it to the end. No, but at the right time, we will be absolutely releasing. And I did the right thing by not doing it so far. But you understand, they would call it something that it wouldn't be. It's the only time you'd be transparent where they'd say bad things about transparency.
He goes on to detail. I thought it was right there in that sound bit. But first of all, you get the point right here, dear listener. What he's saying is like, oh, yes, we are going to declassify the FISA warrants, the scope memos. All of this is coming out. But he goes on to detail in a later clip to Sean Hannity, it's not just going to be this stuff that you know about. There's a whole lot of stuff that hasn't been declassified yet that you don't even know about that we are also going to declassify. Check and mate. This is over now, right? I cannot wait, Luke. This information has to come out, man. It has to come out. So
yeah, I can't wait for it to come out either.
Yeah. Well, right on cue, what does John Brennan do? He freaks out. He goes on to his favorite network, MSLSD, MSNPC, and starts complaining about the president. I have what piece is this? It's a Zero Hedge piece. I'm just going to read about halfway down. So after Trump lashed out at Brennan during a Thursday interview with Fox's Sean Hannity, Brennan, a favorite of cable news show producers, appeared on his favorite cable news channel, MSNPC, where he is a paid contributor to rebut the claims. In another rambling interview, Brennan bashed Trump's, quote, sociopathic ramblings about the, quote, coup as self-serving nonsense, but didn't exactly offer up any evidence to rebut these claims. Quote, I don't think it's surprising at all that we continue to hear the sociopathic ramblings of Mr. Trump claiming that there was this effort to try and prevent him from being elected or to unseat him, Brennan said. Quote, I welcome any type of, continued investigation in terms of what we did during that period of time when we were in government. And I've testified in front of Congress, and I'd be happy to do it again. Okay, now here is something really disturbing that I want to call to everybody's attention. And I'm just as guilty of this as everyone else. I got red-pilled about this on the Conservative Treehouse. It's a very long piece, and so I don't really want to read from it, but the basic takeaway from it is this. Okay, you understand what's happening here. They are trying to bait our side of the argument into outrage, into nothing but pure outrage, pure fury. It's outrageous that Peter Strzok and Lisa Page went and tried to weaponize the Trump team, the administration against him, to spy on them, to check for changes in demeanor and all of this kind of stuff, right? They're baiting a trap for us to be outraged by it for this reason. Because what Brennan just did right there, I've always been transparent about what we're doing. I welcome any more investigations into what we were doing at that time we were in the government, okay? You see what they're going to do. Recall the Susan Rice email that she wrote 15 minutes before Trump was inaugurated. Everybody has always said, and this is Sundance's content, this is not my content, okay, that was a weird email to write to yourself. Remember, it was the by the book email. We did everything by the book in these intelligence agencies. Everybody said, well, that's kind of odd because now it's in the government record. It's there forever. She emailed herself this email, and it seemed like everybody was like, this is a cover your ass email. No. I think Sundance has the drop on this. This is a justification email. This is not a cover your ass email. She's saying that they did everything by the book because what they are going to say is what Brennan just implied. We were just trying to do the right thing. We were just trying to make sure that Trump wasn't a Russian plant. We were just worried about our country. We knew that we weren't going to be in office anymore, but we had to lay traps in place just in case he was a Yuri in the Oval Office trying to control our country for Russia. We're just the good guys here. We're just trying to do the right thing. We didn't know that he wasn't guilty of collusion with Russia at that point in time. All right? You see what's happening here. This is the argument they're going to mount, that they're already mounting, all while the right, people on our side of the argument, run around with our hair on fire, outraged about the government being weaponized as a spy agency against the Trump campaign and the Trump administration. Okay? This is what we do. We back up away from the outrage. And again, I'm just as guilty as everybody else because it's outrageous and it's really infuriating. We got to be smarter than this, okay? Don't get mad. Always call to everybody's attention this simple fact. The investigation started long before we ever knew anything about Russia collusion. The investigation was started purely to spy on the Trump campaign. Russia came up later after the investigation had already started. This is clearly traceable. We're not going to go all the way back through it, even though Sundance does a great bang-up job of laying out the exact order, the way things happen. You know what? Actually, He's got 5 points at the end. I'm going to summarize them. I'm going to read the first sentence from each. All right. The way to get around the legal in defense inside this justification memo is to ignore the activity of those protected by it and go directly to the origin of how they created that false premise in the first place. Number one, President Trump can prove the July 31st, 2016 Crossfire Hurricane counterintelligence operation originated from a scheme within the intelligence apparatus by exposing the preceding CIA operation that created the originating electronic communication memo. Declassify that 2-page EC document that Brennan gave to Comey. The trail was found. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Number 2, release and declassify all of the Comey memos. Number 3, reveal the November 2015 through April 2016 FISA 702 search query abuse by declassifying the April 2017 court opinion written by FISC Fisk presiding judge Rosemary Collier. Okay, I'm going to leave a little bit of that out. All right. Anyways, this is more the strategy of what Trump should try to do, right? But the reason I want to read it to you is to call to your attention. This was going on a lot earlier than Peter Strzok and Lisa Page trying to approach Mike Pence's chief of staff. Keep your eye on the ball here, dear listener. This is really important, right? Don't get mad. Just always go back to the fact that this was a push-pull operation run on George Papadopoulos, and these were false charges created against Carter Page in order to get a FISA warrant against him to spy on the Trump campaign with cooperation from the Five Eyes intelligence agencies, right? And we all know that this came from the dossier, okay? And we also know that they had the dossier in their sticky palms long before they ever copped to the fact that they had it in November of 2016. No, we know this for a fact because John Brennan told Harry Reid about the dossier in August of 2016, and Harry Reid wrote a letter to the DOJ about it right then and there. And Harry Reid declassified information that only could have come from that dossier. So we know that Brennan was shucking and jiving all around Washington, D.C. with this dossier long before the official Russia-Trump investigation began, okay? Also, one last thing that I want everybody to be armed with. Remember that Sunday Morning Futures with Maria Bartiromo that Devin Nunes was on, about maybe 2 months ago or so. And he's like, well, I've read the scope memos. I've read the declassified FISAs. What I can tell you, beyond the shadow of a doubt, without getting into too much detail, is that there was no official intelligence that began the Russia investigation. It did not come from any of our Five Eyes partners, and it was not a product of our U.S. intelligence agencies whatsoever. That means it came from no other place than the dossier written by Fusion GPS. Okay? Let's stick with the facts here. Let's keep our eye on the ball, and let's don't fall for the outrage porn. And I don't know, Luke, that's about all I got on it, man. I hope that made sense, man. Did that even make sense? It's so convoluted and so hard to talk about,
Yeah, I mean, I try to ask questions whenever I don't really understand.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
right.
For me, when I think about stuff, I focus so much on like fact value relationship, and there's so many facts here. It's difficult for me to discern some sort of value judgment about individual little things, like when I think about it from a very, very high level. When I think about the whole Russiagate thing, I think about it from a very high level understanding of it's basically a coup, right? And we know that. And when you think about that from a value judgment standpoint, well, then the value judgments you can make on that are that the left is using third world politics. This is not honest politics. This is third world politics. We have a duly elected president. He was elected fairly through the electorate process. And the left is trying to use political corruption and third world tactics to overthrow a sitting president of the United States.
Well said, brother.
So that's my overarching value judgment from the entire Russiagate.
Yeah. Perfectly said, man. Perfectly summarized and exactly 100% true. Where's the lie? I do have to compliment you, Luke. You have been, I have been guilty of being outraged and running around with my hair on fire about all this stuff. And man, you've been a cold soldier throughout this since episode number 1. When we first started talking about this, man, you've kept a level head to the point that you can make cogent, qualified value judgments like the one you just dropped, man. You stayed really cool about this whole thing. So my compliments, man. Everybody act like Luke when you're talking about this. Act like Luke. Don't act like me, you know?
Oh, thanks, man. But you bring life to the show. Nobody wants to hear like somebody get into just some cold, rational, unemotional analysis. I mean, I guess maybe some people do. I actually enjoy that, but you definitely bring some life and animate the show a bit when it comes to topics like this.
Cool. Thank you, man. So, yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. All right, man. So where are we riding next, man? What do we got?
We have up next the right to vote for terrorists.
Oh my man, can you believe this? All right, so here's the basic story. There was a town hall on CNN. They had some presidential candidates up there. Bernie was there. Kamala Harris was there. Buttigieg was there. Oh man, who else was there? Joe Biden hadn't thrown his hat in the ring yet. I can't even remember who else was there. Elizabeth Warren, I think, was there. Yeah. And so Uncle Bernie he comes out and he starts saying, I believe that felons should have the right to vote, even from when they're in jail. I believe that the vote is the most important tool of our democracy. And even people that are evil, even terrorists who are locked away in prison, should have the right to vote because that's important to our democracy. Can you believe this? Seriously.
Yeah, I love it, dude. You know, I'm reminded of when the alt-right went through this purity spiraling where it was like, oh, who are we going to allow into the ethno state? And it was like, oh no, we can't allow Italians. They're not white. You know, this sort of absurd purity spiraling.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny. It's a race to the left and they're just purity spiraling. It's so fun to watch. Elizabeth Warren, she's trying to be so pragmatic and unprincipled. But then, you know, she's always having to one up everybody else. And it's just the American people don't like it. The voters don't like it. And I love it. I think it's fantastic. Keep it up. Keep doing it. This is good for us.
Yeah.
And to Russ's point before, this is the time where you stand back and you just keep, cool your heels. Oh, this is Saul Alinsky, one of his rules, which is don't interrupt your enemy while they're making a mistake.
Absolutely.
And so Russia is a losing narrative. People are exhausted. They're tired of it. They don't want to hear it. They do not like the purity spiraling, the direction that the left is going. So now is the time to cool your heels, sit down in a sun lounge chair, grab yourself a mojito and just watch the show.
Yes, sir. Sit poolside. Enjoy it. I mean, this is the left eating itself. I mean, in the beginning, it's been really interesting to watch, right? And, Luke and I have called this, from like HSP number 6, I would say, like watching how this is going to go, where this fissure is in the left, right? We've called exactly what these fissures are. And it was so funny how it started when we first started talking about this, Luke, like it was kind of a slow inching to the left right now. And then back then, now, man, then it kind of started off to a step to the left and then kind of a jog to the left. And now it's just straight up leapfrog to the left every single week, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same effect of when a dam breaks. This is the same thing. If you've ever seen like one of those sideways shots of when a dam breaks, it's like, when a dam breaks, it's not because the water is coming over the top. It actually generally breaks like from very, very deep underneath. And the water just slowly sort of saturates the soil and it actually breaks like starting from the very bottom. And this is it's the same sort of thing. The dam is breaking. Their own pragmatism was sort of holding them from going too far to the left. So when we talk about the blob and like the neo-right, the neo-middle, what's been preventing this purity spiraling and this race to the left has been this sort of unprincipled pragmatism. They're saying, oh, no, we need to, and this is smart in my opinion. I think that they have been winning for 100 years. The right has been slowly moving left for 100 years because it's just the frog in the hot water scenario. And election after election, the right cucks a little bit more, the left moves a little bit farther to the left, and it's been going on for 100 years and it's been working for them. And so that's like water trickling out from the dam in the process of breaking. And now it's just reached this critical mass point where the dam is breaking and the water is going to evacuate the lake. And they are all just going to be socialists. This is the future of the left. And the the good news is that I don't think that the American people are ready for it. I think there's too much freedom in terms of distribution of information. There's too much freedom now. I mean, this is another dam that's been breaking, like
For sure.
the left, they can't control the narrative anymore. Before they controlled the media. I mean, this is why communism and socialism under the Nazis, this is why it's so classic that they have to have propaganda, because propaganda is the way through which they lie to the people. So like, we have reality on our side. We have truth on our side. We don't need propaganda. We need freedom to discover the truth. What the left needs is controls. They need propaganda. They need a way to lie to the people and convince them of these lies. And they can't do that when people are free to discover information en masse, like the internet has done for people. So it's been absolutely fantastic. And we've said in previous HSPs, this is evidenced by the fact that the less a forum online is censored is the extent to which it will invariably always become right-wing. Right. It's the moderated, censored forums on the internet that end up becoming left-wing, because those are the ones that they can, I mean, in terms of censorship, lie by omission of truth. Right. So to the extent that forums are free, they always end up being right-wing. It's hilarious.
It is.
And so, I don't think that the people are going to accept socialism or communism or any of these other variants. I mean, they're all variants of socialism at the end of the day, including fascism, but there's just too much information out there. It's too easy to go seek the truth on your own. And people don't even watch mainstream media anymore anyways. So, I mean, the mainstream media was sort of like soft propaganda. It at least maintained a sort of a preface, sort of a pretext that some semblance that it's true, or there is truth to it in some way. But I mean, young people don't really watch mainstream media. They get all their news from the internet now, which is great.
For sure. Yeah. But I mean, you cannot mistake the fact that they are trying to stick their finger in the dam and keep it from collapsing. They're doing
some
things
of them
like
are,
trying to deplatform people like, Alex Jones, Milo Yiannopoulos, trying to censor, dissident speech, if you will.
Well, yeah, dude, what's funny is that like there's like two different dams and they're trying to keep both of them from breaking. One of them is now, I mean, Alex Jones, okay, sure. But like, he's a bad example, but like, like the Milo Yiannopoulos, the Steven Crowders, I mean, to some extent, even like Joe Rogan's, even though he's more center left, so they've got like a finger in that dam trying to keep the information flow dam from breaking. And then you've got, and this is like all the blob people, right? Hillary and all these people. Then they've got their finger like in another dam, which is like the purity spiraling of the left going towards socialism dam. And they're trying to keep that from breaking at the same time. They're being pulled from both ends.
Yeah.
And they're just being torn to pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I might say that a third smaller dam also happening that's kind of cracking right now is this impeach nonsense. Because really, seriously, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi tried to get the party in line in terms of saying, okay, we're not going to pursue impeachment now that the Mueller report is out. We would like to see the entire unredacted report and make hay of it. But they could not keep their colleagues in line enough, right?
Yeah.
To keep from leaping out for impeachment. They've lost control of that party entirely.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. They are in the throes of death right now.
Yeah.
The mainstream neo-left, they're in the throes of death right now. And it's hilarious to watch.
It is, man.
They're just in the throes of death. They don't know what to do. And they just they have nothing. They've been this again, dude. Like when you just evade reality for long enough, you just run out of options. Rand has a really good, one of my favorite quotes of all time. Rand said, she said, "You can ignore reality." I hope I get this right. I may not, but she said, you may ignore reality, but you cannot ignore the consequences of ignoring reality.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
It will catch up with you and it's inescapable. And this is the sort of blob middle. They've been just evading reality. They won't accept the truth. They want to continue down this path that they've been down, and reality has caught up with them. And now they're left with this incredibly, it does it too much justice to call it a weak case for impeachment. That's giving it too much, lending it too much credence.
Yeah.
It's not even that. So they're left with like this Hail Mary impeach option.
Yes.
Which is absurd. And you notice that the Democratic Socialists, they don't care. They're not about all this dirty politics, this like impeach, Russiagate. You don't hear Bernie and you don't hear AOC. You don't hear this camp of the left going on about Russia. They don't care. They're just like, whatever, that's just politics. They're all about like, socialist principles.
Yeah.
And so you can just see, the mainstream left are in the throes of death, trying to throw up a Hail Mary and impeach based upon no evidence. And then you've got the principled left, who have terrible principles, but principled nonetheless, who just don't even care about any of that. They're just like, yeah, no, I don't care, whatever. Like, we're going to do socialism. That's what we're all about.
Yeah. I first of all, I agree 100%. I might push back a little bit in terms of AOC has come out saying that she wants to impeach. And don't forget about Rashida Tlaib. We're going to go impeach the MFer at her victory speech. Remember that?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
I mean,
actually,
but it's
dude,
not their number one, you know what I mean? Like it is for, like Jerry Nadler. That's his number one thing is to get Trump,
Yeah, and I need to back up a little bit actually, because Nancy Pelosi has, she's very timid to enter the water on this.
Yeah,
and she's like the queen of the blob.
Yeah. Right.
So, and she's very timid to get in the water on the impeach front. But I think that's just out of pragmatism. I think if she thought she could get away with it, she totally would.
Straight up.
So,
straight up. Couldn't agree more. Yeah.
It just shows that she's like more of a seasoned vet, whereas the AOCs and the Rashida Tlaib are just kind of like, yeah, totally. Everybody hates him, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
man.
everybody lives in urban New York and thinks like us, right?
Yeah, right. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it just shows how naive they are, how young. And I mean, you got to hand it to them. They're out there doing their thing, and that's not easy, but it just shows how naive they are.
Yeah. And, I don't know, man, they're getting some business done. They're moving the Overton window for the whole party. You know what I mean?
Yeah, to the right.
That's true. I read something about the Justice League this week. I have that article clipped, but it's kind of bought, so I don't really want to talk about it. But the Justice League is laying down the plans for what they're going to do in the election and how they're going to take this party. It was a thrilling read, man. I'll send it to you after the fact. So yeah,
dude, send it. We really need to make sure we stay up on Justice League.
Yeah,
I was really disappointed that we got blindsided by that Mr. Reagan video and just had no. I was like, dude, why didn't we catch that? We should have got that.
Yeah, it's just one of these things, man. Myopia, it happens very easily in these times. You know what I mean? It really does, and we just, we've already talked about it, dear listener. Luke and I just, didn't see the forest for the trees, really, on that situation. We just didn't see it, Yeah. But got some tips, some good information from some dear listeners, started looking into it, and, now we see the truth of what this really is,
Indeed.
So, yeah. So, yep.
All right, dude.
Man.
Let's, do you want to, I think we can go ahead and move on to break already.
Yeah, man. I think we break now. You took words right out of my mouth. Yeah. So good short segment.
Yeah, man. Indeed, man. Well done.
Yeah. All right. So for break audio, we've got this fascinating speech by Larry Elder. He is a radio talk show host. He's on Fox News quite often. As I said earlier in the show, he's an African-American conservative. Great, absolutely hilarious.
I like him actually quite a bit.
Yeah, he's a great guy, man. He's got the funniest smile in the whole world. When Larry Elder smiles, I smile. That's just the bottom line. So, well, there was a convention called David Horowitz's West Coast Retreat that happened on April 5th through April 7th in Palos Verdes, California. Okay, now I did not know about it, but lots of people went there and spoke. Victor Davis Hanson spoke. Several others, including Larry Elder. And so the videos kind of started dropping this week, and it's fantastic content, and I can't wait to play it for you. So what do you say, Luke? You want to play about like 10 minutes of it, take a 10-minute break, something like that?
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in kind of past the intro, dear listener. I'm going to start it at about a minute in. So give us about 10 minutes of real time. We'll be back at you before you know it. Enjoy Larry Elder.
from Community Forum. I later on found out it was no more than 4 or 5 people, all writing letters to all of my sponsors saying Larry Elder is a racist, anti-black, the most hateful guy on radio. Many of my sponsors were national. One of them was United, for example. They're based in Chicago, so they didn't hear the show. I was just local in those days. And so little by little, advertisers began dropping my show. We lost millions of dollars, and my show was on the brink of being canceled. David calls. What can I do? I said, David, I don't know that you can do anything. There's a bunch of idiots writing letters to my clients, saying lies about what I say on the air. The clients aren't here. In those days, you didn't have the internet, the social media, so they couldn't check to verify it. And the average advertiser does not want to get caught between the fire hydrant and the dog. And so they all left. David said, what if we raise some money, put some commercials on TV, increase your ratings, then they couldn't possibly fire you when your ratings are ascending. So David proceeded to do that. We ran a number of commercials. I think, I forget how much money you raised, David. It was almost a couple $100,000. $300,000? And put a bunch of ads, very clever ads on television, and my ratings skyrocketed. Eventually, the boycott broke and they went away, but for what David did, I doubt that I would have survived. David, again, thank you very much for that. How are you? Who would have thought in the year 2019, just what, a few years after the departure of the first black president who got elected in 2008, re-elected in 2012 despite a tepid recovery and unpopular Obamacare, who would have thought we'd be having a serious discussion, at least on the left, of reparations? Who would have thought that? Are you kidding me? You've got to be kidding. Reparations. There are a few problems. There are no living slaves. There are no living slave owners. That's the biggest problem. Reparations is a scheme to extract money from people who were never slave owners and give it to people who were never slaves. What about the role that Africa played in the slave trade? Without the capture and enslavement of blacks and the selling of these slaves by black chieftains, African chieftains, the slave trade never could have occurred. What about the Muslim role in the slave trade? The Muslim slave trade in Africa preceded the European slave trade by hundreds of years, continued well after, and more slaves were taken out of Africa by Arab slavers and transported to the Middle East and to South America and to the Caribbean than were slaves taken out of Africa and sent to North America by European slavers. So how are you going to factor that in? And of course, if you know anything at all about the history of slavery, slavery unfortunately has been all part of human history from the very beginning. Caucasians enslaved Caucasians, Africans enslaved Africans, Asians enslaved Asians, Native Americans enslaved Native Americans. We go on and on and on. But for the West's revulsion ultimately against slavery, we might still have it. So how do you factor that in? How do you do that? What about Kamala Harris? Kamala Harris's mother is from India. Her father is from Jamaica. Her father concedes that he and his family own slaves. How does that work? What about Barack Obama? Barack Obama's father is from Kenya. There's no evidence that his family directly owned slaves, but what is now Kenya was directly involved, intimately involved in the slave trade. And his mother, there's no question that her family owned slaves on his mom's side. So how does that work? Does Obama pay more than other blacks for reparations? What about all the people who are working class and middle class who are black? The premise behind reparations apparently is, but for slavery, but for Jim Crow, you wouldn't have the kind of poverty that you have in the black community. Blacks are about 20% poor. Whites are about 8.7% poor. How did white people get poor? Given the white privilege that they were supposed to benefit by, the trust fund that every white person gets. So are the white people who are poor exempted from having to pay any of the reparations? What about the fact that my colleague in Salem, Michael Medved, once said, only about 5% of whites have any sort of generational connection to slavery. So the other 95% who had nothing to do with it also pay? What about all the people who came over to the country after slavery was over? It's insane. And Obama even opposed slavery when he was opposed reparations when he was asked about it. He gave some long, lofty answer about, I understand why people want it, but he also said that it would be divisive, politically untenable, and he's right. It is divisive and politically untenable. Only about 26% of people right now support reparations. Who would have thought? Reparations. The Trump derangement syndrome is part of the push for this, but the other real part is now that you have in 2020, you've got Cory Booker who's running, who's black, Kamala Harris who's running, who's black, others who are running who are not white. So if you're going to get that 95% black vote without which the Democrats cannot win, how are you going to distinguish yourself from the other people? I know. We'll offer them reparations. And so now you have Bernie Sanders suggesting that he's interested in doing that. You have Beto O'Rourke suggesting he's interested in doing that. A few days ago at a campaign stop, a black man said to him, "Why should I, as a black man, vote for you when you don't support reparations?" And Beto O'Rourke gave this long answer about how poorly off blacks are, unequal, differences in net worth and all that, but he never said, "I'm in favor of reparations." 2 days later, he came out in favor of a commission to study the issue of reparations, which he didn't say to that black man then. He got hammered. He knew he had to distinguish himself from the other Democrats, so now he's come around to this notion of reparations. Are you kidding me? My father was born in 1915. The man that, his name is Taisi Coates, wrote an article called The Case for Reparations. It came out in 2014. It probably is the most important piece ever written about reparations, and a lot of politicians have referred to it. He starts his piece out by talking about a man who was born in 1923 and the series of things that happened to that man. He was in the military, the GI Bill discriminated against him, the New Deal discriminated, and all these bad things that happened to this gentleman who was born in 1923. My father was born in 1915. My father was born in Athens, Georgia. He does not know his biological father. I didn't find that out until I was 25 years old. We sat down and we talked for 8 hours. We had a big fight when I was 15 years old. We didn't speak for almost 10 years. So now I'm 25 years old, sitting down with my dad. I was going to call him an SOB. I figured he'd call me an ungrateful son. We'd have a 10-minute conversation. At least we'd clear the air. We sat there for 8 hours. He said, when I complained about how he used to whip us, he said, "Let me tell you about how I grew up. Your last name Elder?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "That's not the name of my biological father." I'm 25 years old. I said, "Who is your biological father?" "I don't know. Never met him. His mother was illiterate, had a series of boyfriends, each one more irresponsible than the one before." My dad said Elder was the man in his life the longest, which is why he took his name. And he was an alcoholic who was physically abusive to his mom and physically abusive to me when I would intervene. He was a drunk, and when he would come home from work, when he did work, he would give my mother the paycheck, my dad said, and then come Wednesday, he'd want the money, and she would refuse to give it to him because she knew he would drink it, and then he would beat the crap out of her and get the money. My dad intervened, he beat the crap out of him. That was Elder. And my dad said when I was 13 years old, he came home and started quarreling with his mom's then boyfriend. Elder was long gone. His mother sided with the boyfriend, threw my father out of the house at the age of 13, never to return. You're talking about a black boy, Jim Crow South, Athens, Georgia, at the beginning of the Great Depression. I defy you to find very many people who had a hand dealt like that. And I said, "Dad, what did you do?" He said, "I went down the road. I took any job I could get. Ultimately, I became a Pullman porter on the trains. They were the largest private employer of those days. And my dad went all around the country, very unusual for a black boy, and he came to LA on a stop. And unlike the other stops in the South, he didn't have to get cans of tuna or crackers because you could go into a restaurant and actually get served. So my dad thought, hey, maybe someday I'll relocate to California. I don't know. Pearl Harbor. My dad joins the Marines. He was a Montford Point Marine. They were the first black Marines. For some reason, people know about the Tuskegee Airmen, but they don't know about the Montford Point Marines. There were 20,000 of them at Camp Lejeune, near where Camp Lejeune is right now. And my dad was sent to Guam during World War II, where he became a master cook. And when the war was over, my dad went back to Chattanooga, where he had met and married my mom, and he wanted to get a job as a short order cook. He went to restaurant to restaurant to restaurant, and he was told, "I'm sorry, we don't hire niggers." My dad went to an unemployment office. The lady said, "You went to the wrong door." My dad goes out to the hall, sees colored only, goes to that door to the very same lady who sent him out. My dad said, "This is BS," to my mom. "I'm going to LA, I'm going to get me a job as a cook, and I'll send for you." He comes out here, he walks around LA for 2 or 3 days, restaurant to restaurant to restaurant, and they tell him, "You have no references." I thought, father said, I cook for the military. What do you mean I have no references? You have no references. My dad even offered to work for free for 2 weeks. Just give me a reference. They wouldn't do that. They treated him the same way in L.A. as he was treated in Chattanooga. They were just a little more polite about it. My dad went to an unemployment office, this time just one door. Lady said, we have nothing. My dad said, I'll be sitting in this chair when you open. I'll be sitting in the chair when you leave. When you find something, I'll take it. She calls him up after a day and a half. She says, I have something. I don't know that you'll want it. My dad said, of course I want it. What is it? She says, the job at a company called Nabisco Breads. You'll be cleaning toilets. My dad did that for 10 years. Took a second job at another bread company called Barbara Ann Bread, also full-time, cleaning toilets. He cooked for a family on the weekend to make additional money, and he went to night school 2 or 3 nights a week in order to get his GED. The man never slept, which was why he was cranky all the time. And as we spoke, my father got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I got smaller and smaller and smaller, and finally I'm crying, and I said, Dad, I am just so sorry I judged you so harshly. My father said, don't be, you didn't know. But I want you to follow the advice I've always given you and your brothers. Hard work wins.
All right, everybody, welcome back to HSP episode number 36. That was a great audio piece for us. I really enjoyed. I only caught the very end of it because my sister's here visiting, so I was out there. She was kind of listening in a little bit on the first segment. We had our first true official live audience. And
all right. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, okay. Yeah, fair enough. Actually, yeah, no, that's not true at all, because I've recorded in front of other people as well, Jessica included, but among others actually even. No, I really liked that at the end. I mean, there's something to be said for not being above work. And I've talked about this on previous shows as well. When I came out here to Germany, I needed work. I had most of my experience was in sales and business development, and you had to be able to speak German in order to find work in that field. So I needed food. I needed to put food on the table. And I drew on experience from back when I went to college, which was cooking, and somehow ended up being able to get a job at a restaurant, and that was very difficult to deal with psychologically, as I detailed on previous shows, which is just that here you are 10 years later after professional experience, a college degree, and you're straight up back to doing what I was doing in college. And what got me through that was reminding myself that this was an opportunity to, and also this is when it really galvanized my understanding of what capitalism is on a personal level, not a political level, but a personal level, which is that you are capitalizing on your time. And I reminded myself anytime, I'm sitting there shaking a aluminum thing full of freshly cooked French fries and seasoning it and shaking it and just going, what am I doing with myself, with my life? I would just immediately remind myself, no, I am happy because somebody has given me the opportunity to capitalize on my time, which allows me to earn money. And I did that. And I instead of getting my GED, like Larry Elder was saying his father did, I, took a programming course and I learned to code. And that got me as an entry-level job at a company, and now my life has returned to normal, and I've successfully made a career transition. It took me a year, so man, just 1 year. So it's when you think about work and these things, you should always be happy that you have an opportunity. You are free, and you have an opportunity to capitalize on your time. That is what it means to be a capitalist on a personal level, is that you are taking every opportunity that you can on a personal level to capitalize on your time. That is what being a capitalist is on a personal level.
Right.
So did you...
well said, man.
Thanks,
well
man.
Said. Yeah.
So why we here at HSP are capitalists.
Yeah, man. Yeah, through thick and thin, ride or die, man. I love my iPhone. I love my computers. I love my microphone. I love my whiskey. I love my beer. I love the fact that I can just go exchange value for these things because I gain much value from all of these. So, yeah, man. Yeah, I love it. So,
For sure, man.
But like, yeah. I went through a similar metamorphosis as you. I don't necessarily want to get into the weeds about it right now, but you know all about it, man. It's a tough time when you have to rebuild and reinvent, and when you got to grab a mop again, as Dan Bongino says, go grab that mop. You know what I mean? But that's what you do if you're a capitalist. You don't sit around and cry, and you don't make excuses, and you don't expect anybody else to grab the mop for you. You go grab that mop and you do the work.
Yeah,
and that's what it is.
Totally.
That's what it is. Yep.
Yeah, totally, man. Man, what do you? Speaking of which, what do you got? What are you drinking on today? You have an adult beverage?
I have two. As a matter of fact, I have a fine Shiner Bock, and I have a fine whiskey, which is called Blackened. And this whiskey, the way it works, right? Okay, they put it in a barrel to age it, right? And they play Metallica music to this whiskey, right? James Hetfield's involved with this.
This is not a joke?
No, this is serious. Yeah. So they sit there and play Metallica music to this barrel of whiskey for 3 years. And it's pretty pricey stuff and not exactly easy to find. And it was discovered and found by dearest listener, as a matter of fact, and who was kind enough to pass me along a bottle of it. And so I'm drinking a little bit of that Blackened right now, and yeah, watching the stars win, all while trying to hold it down enough to do this radio show. I'm having a great time, man. How about you? What are you drinking on, man?
Well, actually, man, I normally don't drink beer, but I actually have a beer. I have a Hever Pilsner here, so it's pretty good.
Yeah, man. Y'all got it made with German beer, man. I'm not kidding. German beer is mighty fine stuff, I must say.
Yeah, the Hefeweizens here are great for sure.
Yes, they are. So, yeah.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And tomorrow headed to Amsterdam for a couple days. Gonna go.
All right.
Hang out. Got a hotel like sort of in the middle of Amsterdam, so just gonna go hang out there with my sister and one of her friends for a couple days and just kind of party and wander around. It's gonna be good times.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yep. I've always wanted to get by there, man. My brother and sister-in-law went there, and they were there for a goodly bit, and just said it was absolutely beautiful. They love it, So
yeah, totally. It's Netherlands it's a very wealthy place, and
for sure,
surprisingly wealthy, and it is absolutely beautiful. I love the Netherlands. I mean, I don't know. I like Western Europe in general. I haven't spent much time in Eastern Europe, so I can't make a value judgment there, but I just love Western Europe. It's just, I mean, I don't want to live here for forever, but I love what it has to offer. And Amsterdam in particular, I've been to it many years ago. I went there like 6-7 years ago. And man, I just remember how nice it was, how clean it was, how fun it was. And I'm really looking forward to making it back there after all these years.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I'm jealous. Good on you. Y'all have fun, man. That's going to be awesome. So, yeah.
Yeah, dude. Well, one of these days when we have Zero Gravity Media HQ here in Germany, then you'll have to come over here and record for some time out of the year.
Definitely. Most definitely. Yeah.
Or one of our global HQs, I should say. Yeah. Well, one in Texas, exactly. One in Germany for sure.
Yeah. At the current time now, dear listener, going forward, we're going to have global HQs all around the globe if things go according to plan, which they will. And because we're going to see to it. So, man, we're going to have respite areas all around the world. And we've got plans in place. We're going places.
Absolutely.
And you're always welcome.
Yeah, our ultimate goal is to make freedom, liberty, capitalism a global movement. We would love to have shows and, find people like Russ and myself that are like good buddies who have read a lot and educated themselves on this subject matter and are up with internet culture and humor and speak a different language and have a show like this in Vietnamese and Japanese and Spanish and Portuguese and make a global movement out of this. That would be so awesome.
Absolutely.
That's like me personally, that's like my ultimate goal is to make a global movement.
Yeah. Absolutely. Me too. Right there with you, man. Right there with you.
That would be like my life's mission completed.
Indeed, sir. Yeah.
So
speaking of missions, man, I guess we should probably get back into some content. What do you think?
Yeah, dude. Let's do it.
Yeah. So we NSA, is that where we're going first?
Yeah. Let's do NSA.
All right. So this isn't a really big topic, but I did want to bring it up. This is a really big deal, and I've got several articles clipped to this effect, but I'm pretty big on the conservative treehouse right now. Sundance does some great work. Smart, sharp as attack, man. Just really, really smart and very challenging. And so I grow from his article. So I'm going to read his article about this. I'm going to take it from the lead. It goes thus. The National Security Agency has recommended that the White House abandon a U.S. surveillance program that collects information about Americans' phone calls and text messages, saying the logistical and legal burdens of keeping it outweigh its intelligence benefits, according to people familiar with the matter. The recommendation against seeking the renewal of the once secret spying program amounts to an about-face by the agency, which had long argued in public and to congressional overseers that the program was vital to the task of finding and disrupting terrorism plots against the U.S. The latest view is rooted in a growing belief among senior intelligence officials that the spying program provides limited value to national security and has become a logistical headache. Frustrations about legal compliance issues forced the NSA to halt use of the programs earlier this year, the people said. Its legal authority will expire in December unless Congress reauthorizes it, which Congress will. Congress loves their spying, man. They always double down on the NDAA and the Patriot Act. They always do. You know what I mean? So, of course, they're going to pass it into law again.
Yeah, totally. I mean, this is what makes dealing with government so difficult. I mean, somebody asked me just today, actually. They said, how do you roll back all of these regulations, all of these controls, all of this stuff? How do you roll that back? And I said, by ripping off a Band-Aid. That's how.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And to your point, this is that Band-Aid being ripped off right now. And this does seem to be true. It's being pretty widely reported, but really nobody's talking about it. Nobody understands the importance of this. This is huge, dear listener. This cannot be underestimated. This is the end of dragnet spying that the NSA, which once championed it, is proposing to the president. And I think the president's going to go for it. Will Congress? No, definitely not.
Yeah,
definitely not.
Agreed on that.
But this is the Band-Aid. Yeah, this is the Band-Aid being ripped off here. This is it.
I think what a better analogy is, rather than, because a Band-Aid implies there was a wound there that it needed to fix.
True.
So I think a better analogy would be one of those like prank videos on YouTube where someone's kind of just asleep on the couch, like with their arm under the air. And then someone else kind of like comes up and like puts wax in their underarm and then puts a wax paper on it and then wakes them up. And then they realize suddenly they have to tear that off.
Oh,
I think that's like a better analogy.
Very good. Yeah, I would agree. That's a better analogy.
Because like it's possible for that Band-Aid to serve a valid purpose,
Yeah.
Don't want to imply that here.
But yeah, man, I mean, to jump back into it, like, how many terrorists have we disrupted by using this spying technology? I can't think of one. Like, seriously, maybe we got some of that intel about Sri Lanka from this dragnet spying. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, to be fair, we probably wouldn't know about any terrorism cases that we've disrupted due to this global spying,
Yeah, I would say that we probably wouldn't hear about it. Probably wouldn't be very big news. I would bet that they for sure do, considering the fact that we've been largely, there's been like, I don't want to call them lone wolves because, there is smoke, there is fire, there is ideology in the words of the spokesman for CARE. But so they're not lone wolves, but they're not organized terrorist attacks like 9/11 was. Like Sri Lanka was. It wasn't a coordinated, and this is interesting because now they are having to, I don't want to validate these surveillance programs. I think there's a better way to do this so you don't have to surveil your people. But what we're seeing now is that they are having to go to other countries that aren't doing this to carry out their terrorist attacks now.
Right.
They're having to go target Westerners and Christians in other countries that don't have this. So, and I know for a fact in Germany, every time they catch somebody, it's all over the news. The news works a little bit different over here. They're a little bit more honest. There's not quite as much going on, generally speaking. So they tend to report on these kinds of things. And it was just recently, actually. It was near the Ramstein Air Base. Like they busted a whole bunch of people who were planning a terrorist attack just recently.
Dang.
Yeah, and we were actually driving through that area and we heard it on the local radio. That's how I knew about it. But
oh man, wow.
So yeah, it does quote unquote work. You don't need to violate the rights of your people to put an end to terrorism, but it quote unquote works in some effect. And in as much as we have not had an organized terrorist attack in the United States, I don't think since 9/11, then I don't know how many people they've caught, but I don't think that we would have heard about it, is I guess all I'm trying to say.
Yeah. It's a fair point, but the downside of this, we don't know what its benefits are. The NSA certainly doesn't think that its benefits outweigh its risks and the headaches of doing it, right? But we do know that it is these mechanisms, for example, that are weaponized against things like political campaigns in the case of Spygate. You know what I mean? There is a huge downside to it. And so I don't know. You can't have a Fourth Amendment in this complete open spying. You know what I mean? Those are irreconcilable.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So
it's just a violation of property rights.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely is. Yeah. Privacy and property. It most certainly is.
Yeah.
So I sure hope it happens, but call me skeptical at best that Congress would actually allow this to happen. So yeah. I mean, because, I suspect, and I've heard tales of, they use these technologies to spy on one another, to get blackmail material on one another in Congress. I mean, they love this shit. They absolutely love it, So
yeah,
and have proven it time and time and time again for 18 years now, So yeah, but I mean, to be fair, there are some stalwarts against it, right? Like Rand Paul, for example, doesn't like any of this one single bit and has always spoken out against it. Justin Amash has always spoken out against it. There are a few others, who are pretty good on this issue, but for the most part, it's a landslide home run for surveillance in both Congress and the Senate, really. Yeah. So, yeah. But anyway, big stuff. I mean, that really is huge. And let's just, fingers crossed, dear listener. Let's hope it happens. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What we got next, man?
Let's hit, the Dem field.
Yeah. Okay. We've kind of already alluded to it a little bit, but man, we're talking in terms of the leapfrogging to the left that's going on right now. But what a fascinating week, dear listener. Oh my God. As Luke said, and actually Saul Alinsky said, and Luke quoted, never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. And right now, this campaign is turning into an absolute...
Do it in the Saul Alinsky voice. Do you know what his voice sounds like?
No, actually, I don't.
Yeah, I watched a bunch of interviews of his not long ago.
Huh.
He sounds like this. He's like, never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake.
It's kind of almost like Leonard Peikoff, but not as cool type of thing.
Yeah, a little bit. No, Leonard Peikoff, he would be like, never. No, I can't even do it. Robert has to do it.
I know, man.
Yeah.
Where's Robert when you need him?
I know, man.
So, yeah.
But yeah, I'm not going to try it because I don't want to do. Robert needs to do it, but anyways, that's what
he would show up in imitation Seamus next week if we did it.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, well, maybe then we should do it. So then he's here on the show next week.
True. That's a good point.
No, but yeah, Saul Alinsky's voice. He sounds so whiny.
Yeah. I can imagine that. I mean, his argumentation is pretty whiny. I mean, he was buddies with Hillary Clinton. She wrote her master's thesis about him, I think, before she went to law school. And she wrote it on Rules for Radicals, and she was like kind of his protege, right? So can you imagine those two voices in one room together? Oh, my God, man. Oh, my God.
Yeah, he... It's really funny. You hear the name Saul Alinsky, and you think of this like big bad wolf, this like evil... terrible human being, but he's actually like a pretty normal sounding dude, just whiny.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll look for some interviews.
Yeah. It just goes to show like people are just not nearly as smart as you think they are, generally speaking.
Yeah. True. It's true. I don't know. I always used to think that people really were smart and that they were smarter than you thought they were. And man, the 2016 election cycle just absolutely proved me wrong.
Yeah, man. That is something like, dear listener, you have to purge this from your head. Like, it took me for like so long to deprogram myself from just always assuming everybody else has something that like, it's not that they know something I don't, but that they reasoned their way into something that I couldn't. And
right.
Over the years, I'm still doing it. I still overestimate people. It's not that I'm intimidated by people anymore. I'm certainly not that, but I still overestimate people. I still give people way too much credit than they deserve. And I'm trying to get better about that.
Yeah, it's conditioning that's hard to break, and I'm the exact same. I think actually probably it's fair to say that most people are the same way outside of, sociopaths and people like that. So yeah.
It's like a good example. I was trying to learn music theory at one point, and I was like so overcomplicating it. And a friend of mine who knows music theory very well, he was like, "Dude, you just don't overthink it." I just didn't understand what he meant, but I know what he means now, which is just simply like, it's possible. You can reason your way through this. It's not anything crazy. And philosophy's one of the most difficult subjects out there. And perhaps the most difficult, because it's not simply work that you have to do. You also have to it has to be honest work above all else, above anything. It has to be honest. And, if you're not honest, you will invariably arrive at the wrong conclusions. Honest with yourself and honest in your thinking. And I've come to all these conclusions and read all this stuff, and to me it's all very simple now, but when I talk to people about it, I realize I'm like, oh my, like that Retreat to Complexity article. To me, I read that and reread it, and I was like, oh man, I was like, this is okay, good. It logically flows. I think, the reader will understand. Okay. And then like I've had two people that just gave up halfway through, and they're like, oh really? Yeah.
Dang.
They're like, I couldn't follow. So now I've got to go back to the drawing board and on my next piece, try to, I don't know, maybe break it up, maybe make it shorter, maybe speak in less abstract terms. I'm not quite sure.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I did have to read it twice. I did, but it really paid off on that second read. And I don't know. I mean, not to talk smack about your readers at all, because I mean, this is high level, high intellect concepts that you're talking about. It really is. It's not simple stuff, But I had to give it a second read before I got what you were talking about. Well, no, that's not true. I got it the first time. I had to read it again to solidify it in my mind. Yeah, if I can put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, my goal in doing this, and my goal in doing a lot of this writing, is I want to take a something that you would come across quite a bit. Like, I hear this all the time from people. Like, oh, it's too complex. How are we ever going to know? The universe, who knows how we got here? And it's just this always falling back on this sort of impotence, this sort of impotent world view that we can't really know. There's no and you get this all the time. And I think a lot of people, they just sort of shrug and just go, just don't know how to deal with something like that. But to understand that, you really have to understand like the deep philosophical premises that those sorts of statements rely upon. And if you can understand that, then you're not frustrated with it anymore. And that was my only goal in that,
For sure. Yeah. Well done, man. I love that piece. I thought it was fantastic. Very well written, very well presented. So nice job.
Thanks,
man.
Dude.
Keep it coming.
But we should move on. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail us.
No worries whatsoever. So let me get back in the show prep here. What do we got next, man?
By the way, how are the
I've
Stars
got all
doing?
these bots.
Really quick.
The score is 3-1 at the top of the third period. So we got one period left before we put these punks down. And it's going well, man.
Who are they playing?
St. Louis Blues.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, man, it's a long rivalry, man. I've got business with the Blues going way back, man. I mean, to pre-Stanley Cup days, 20 plus years ago. So yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, I've been watching the Stars for a long time. So yeah. Oh man, I'm so happy we're in the playoffs. But like, really, man, honestly, like I've got the game on here in my headphones, dear listener. I'm serious. I'm listening to the Stars while I'm talking to Luke and you here. It's difficult. And so I'm sorry if I'm not quite as sharp as usual, but like this is important, and Luke and I have this one window because Luke leaves for Amsterdam tomorrow. We have to record right now. And we drew the short straw on game time. We ended up with the day game, which I hate. So anyway, I'm listening to it and like seriously, and every now and then I'll click over and watch a little bit, like while while I'm talking about Spygate or something like that. And like Luke, seriously, we are beating their ass, dude. It seriously could be 6-1 right now. I mean, their goaltender is having a good day, and we've already put 3 in. You know what I mean? So
that's great, dude.
Yeah, it is. It's good stuff.
One of our other dear listeners will be excited about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This particular dear listener has been texting me, and I've got to get back at him in the next audio break. Man, he's pretty excited.
All right.
Yeah, we've got 2 dear listeners that have been hitting me up continually, like kind of giving me updates. One knows that we're recording right now. Our buddy, our very close friend, does not know that we're recording right now, so I got to call back and tell him, yo, when you listen to the show, just know.
That's awesome, dude.
I was listening to the game. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, yeah. So,
well, that is now immortalized here in this very recording.
So it is. So,
all right, dude. We should move on.
Yeah, let's ride. So Democrat field, we haven't really kind of put a pretty bow on that, but it's this unending lurch to the left that we're seeing right now. And this is the absolute destruction of the Democrat Party, as we already hit in segment 1. But, the tactics that are being used that draw, it's like it's like this. It's like they're baiting one another to go further to the left. It's like this, like they were all in the shallow end of the pool, right? Then one swam out a little bit deeper, trying to lure the others out into the deep end, right? Then another one kind of swam out a little bit farther to the deep end. And now these cats, they're all pulling each other under in the deep end of the pool right now, dude. It is fascinating to watch. And it's about this, Uncle Bernie, terrorists should be allowed to vote. Then, Kamala Harris comes out and says, oh, yeah, in my first 100 days, if Congress doesn't take serious action, I'm going to take away everybody's guns by executive order. I mean, that's not exactly what she said, but that's what she means. You know what I mean? So we're going to start with common sense gun reform. Nobody needs a military-style assault rifle. So we're just going to, by executive order, refuse that right in the Constitution. We're going to take those assault weapons away in the first 100 days. That's what she's saying. And I mean, yeah, Luke, I mean, you've got more stuff. What was it? What was Warren's gaffe this week? What was her thing?
That's not. I mean, the entire Dem field is one enormous gaffe. But
well, that's true. It wasn't a gaffe. Yeah, it's an on purpose, man.
Yeah, totally
on purpose.
Yeah, so I've got a Breitbart piece here titled "Presidential Hopeful and Senator Elizabeth Warren pledges to stop all oil and gas production on federal lands and offshore on her first day in office if she is elected."
Dang! Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah, actually, I'm sorry. That's not that's like the title. The title of the article is "Elizabeth Warren Halt All Oil and Gas Drilling on Day 1 of Presidency," which, Breitbart does this sometime. That is an inaccurate and clickbait head title because that's not actually what it is. She wants a moratorium on new fossil fuel leases, including for drilling offshore and on public lands. So that title is just straight up misleading. So Warren said I'm quoting here from the article. Warren said she would place, quote, total moratorium on all new fossil fuel leases, including for drilling offshore and on public lands, end quote. Warren made the pledge as part of what the Daily Beast reported was a, quote, public lands policy rollout, end quote, in an op-ed published ahead of trips to South Carolina, Colorado, and Utah. Warren said, quote, lands under arrest, end quote, from President Donald Trump's energy policies.
Dang.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's a weird sentence. And then finally, in quote, we must not allow corporations to pillage our public lands and leave taxpayers to clean up the mess, end quote. Warren wrote in a Medium post, quote, all of us, local communities and tribes, hunters and anglers, ranchers and weekend backpackers.
Are you kidding me?
Must work together to manage and protect our shared heritage. Oh, end quote. Oh, her shared heritage with the tribes, man. She just won't let this go, Russ.
Stands with a beer. Yes. Our heritage stands with a beer. So now you acknowledge common inheritance with white people like Luke and myself. So yes, okay, thank you very much for conceding the argument. Native American elder that thou art. So
yeah, her shared heritage with everybody. Yeah, so she's not looking to destroy, and I actually said this in the beginning of the show, but she's not looking to destroy the oil industry as we know it exists today. But she is looking to destroy basically the future of the oil industry in the United States.
Right. Yeah, and that one awkward sentence that you read from the piece really is the one that nailed it the hardest. And I'm glad that you read it. It's that she wants to undo all of the deregulation that Trump has done. This is why we are now an oil exporting nation, why we now are tapping these vast quantities of oil that we have in this country, right? And we're now a net oil exporter because of these regulations that Donald Trump has lifted. That's what she's going after right there. She wants to go after Trump's deregulation. And she's not smart enough to argue it that way.
Right.
That frankly is it. So, yeah. Man, and she's not very smart either. She's, dumb as a post. So, yeah. All right, got some news. St. Louis just scored. It's now 3-2. Sorry for the black pill. The goal is under review, but it looks like it's going to count. So 3-2. Dallas Stars. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm looking at these oil numbers, and let's see, just a couple of years ago, back in 2000, offshore in the Gulf of Mexico accounted actually for 25%. This is just the Gulf of Mexico, 25% of our crude output. 18% in 2017. So that has in part to do with our shale, how much shale
it does
in fracking that we are able to produce with. But still is a good, the offshore is a huge portion of our oil production. But I mean, once you pass a law like this, then it's like, oh, let's just expand public lands. And then it's like BLM, get to work.
Yeah. Right. That's exactly right. So BLM, which is, I mean, for all intents and purposes, is a terrorist organization, man. And I've had to deal with them quite a bit. It is not pleasant, man. And I mean, they're not a terrorist organization. I'm just trying to have some fun. That's all. But it is a hopeless bureaucracy that really seems intent on taking land away from American people and making it impossible for them to use. That literally seems to be what their intent is, So
yeah, that's basically that's what public land is.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, you can use it, but it's like for camping and things like this.
Right. Right. And, and you used to be able to, use it for hunting. Well, you still can in some places, but it's very strictly regulated now. Like, for example, in California, you cannot go shoot on public land anymore. Do you know the excuse they used for that? Oh my God, because all the lead is getting in the ground and it's making the lead poisons the ground and it's getting into our groundwater and it's making everything poisonous. That's just so ridiculous and absurd on its face. Okay. So use Full Metal Jacket ammo then. How about that? Oh no, we just need to take away all ammo. You can't shoot in California on public land. And so now you pretty much can't shoot on public land in California, man. You really can't. How can you hunt when you can't shoot? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now to be fair, some of it you still can hunt on, you know what I mean? But like they're really cracking down on a lot of it, trying to regulate it, keep it away from hunters. You know what I mean? And Elizabeth Warren has the temerity to come out and talk about hunters and anglers. Anglers means fishermen. I know that everybody within the sound of our dulcet tones in these hallowed halls knows what an angler is, but Elizabeth Warren did not know what an angler was. That is campaign rhetoric written by some speechwriter is what it is.
Dude, not only that, but a lot of people don't understand that prior to offshore drilling in the Gulf of Mexico, so her premise here is that offshore drilling harms anglers.
Right. Right. Good point. Good point.
Before offshore drilling in the Gulf of Mexico was basically an underwater desert. There was not much life. There was not many fish, and it was a desert. There weren't any corals or anything like this. And as offshore oil started to build up, the fish used those platforms. I mean, if you've ever gone deep sea fishing in the Gulf of Mexico, where do they take you? To the oil platforms.
True.
And the fish use those oil platforms and to basically for protection. And after enough oil platforms got built, they use them as like a network And the oil platforms have created this network of biomass activity, just fish activity. And now there's sharks and all sorts of things in the Gulf of Mexico, precisely because of the oil industry. The oil industry has vastly improved blue water fishing in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah.
Deep sea fishing.
Except for Deepwater Horizon, to be fair.
Well, dude, but even Deepwater, I mean, like, but even still, like the Gulf of Mexico, you know, quote unquote, leaks oil naturally from the seafloor every single day in quantities even bigger. And there's no problem.
I mean, I mean, that actually is true, but man, that one was, I mean, it's spread out and distributed enough that it doesn't wash up in big clumps on beaches in the Gulf. You know what I mean? And that is what happened with that.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, it was a mistake, you know.
Yeah, it was a mistake, but I mean, modern civilization is worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no question about it. So,
but I guess my point is that, like, you know, oh my God, anglers. It's like, no, the anglers are very, very thankful for the oil platforms allowing all of those fish to exist there now for them to go fish. And I'm sure all of the businesses that run deep sea fishing tours and things like this, yes, all of them very much appreciate the oil community.
Absolutely, man. And but also, man, doesn't angler kind of not mean deep sea fishing? Doesn't it kind of mean land fishing?
Dude,
right?
Honestly, I don't know.
Fishing?
I always thought it just meant fishing. Let me look.
Maybe it does. Maybe you know what? I'll look into the etymology of that term. I'm not sure, so I shouldn't say anything. But like, it's a pretty absurd argument if it does mean terrestrial fishing, like in lakes and rivers and such. And she's talking about, you know, it being safe for, you know, making the Gulf safe for anglers. It's a pretty absurd argument on its face. You know what I mean? So, but I'll find out. I'll find out about that.
Angling is a method of fishing by means of an angle or fish hook. The hook is
okay. Oh, well, that just red-pilled me. I thought angling was the angle between the fishing line and the fishing pole. So now, okay, all right.
It says the hook is usually attached to a fishing line, and the line is often attached to a fishing rod. Modern fishing rods are usually fitted with a fishing reel that functions as a mechanism for storing, retrieving, and paying out the line. Tankera fishing and cane pole fishing are two techniques that do not use a reel. The hook itself can be dressed in bait, blah, 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 blah. So it's, I mean, if you're fishing with a hook, you are angling.
Huh. Okay. I'll be damned. Learn something new every day. I really always thought it was kind of the angle between. Yeah. Anyways, I already said it. So yeah. Huh. Well, I appreciate that, man. Yeah.
We anglers now.
It's good to know. We anglers.
It's our shared. That's our shared heritage is angling.
Our shared heritage. Yes, indeed.
You know, I wonder if they even understand how absurd this vocabulary is. It's like, I just imagine like a junior high student, you know, just like chin high in the air as they're typing away, must work together to manage and protect our shared heritage.
Yeah.
And then they grab like their cup of tea and stare proudly out the window, reflecting on,
drink it with their pinky in the air,
reflecting on their stroke of brilliance that just occurred to them.
Yeah. Oh, Lord have mercy. Yeah. Man, what a hot mess she is. She truly is, man. And like, you know, Luke, so, I mean, to shift gears a little bit, talking about the Democrats here, do you see anybody getting this nomination? I truly don't, man. Like, they do not have one good candidate in this whole, what are we at now? 21, 22?
Something like that.
Something like that? Yeah. And I mean, I understand the polling and all of that kind of stuff. I think the candidate that is most dangerous to Trump is Bernie, right? And, you know, I understand the polling data and all this kind of stuff, but there's not a runaway candidate like there was, for example, with Trump in 2016 with all of those potential candidates, right? Like, you knew right from the beginning Jeb had no chance, even though the media tried to meme it into reality. Oh, it's going to be it's Bush Clinton election 2.0 or 3.0 or whatever it is.
It's not a matter of who's going to get the nomination. It's going to be who almost got it and came in second.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly it. And they tried so hard to meme it into, you know, cut Bush and Hillary, you know, and that was never the case, because we always knew from the very beginning, Rubio was a threat, but really it was always Trump or Cruz.
Yeah.
And you and I called that from day one, man. You know what I mean? And I'm talking about, what was it, June? I can't remember the exact day. It's the day after the president's birthday. Is it June 7th, 2015, when he descended the gilded escalator? Luke and I were at work texting each other like, holy shit, are you listening to this? Like, yeah, man. And we were actually, I've told this story before, so forgive me for repeating, but we were actually going to try to not go out and drink that night, right? And we were at work, Luke's texting me, are you hearing this? I'm like, yes, I am. And he was like, man, we drinking tonight. I'm like, you're absolutely right. We're drinking tonight. So we go to the bar and we start talking about it, right? And we're like, do you think he's serious? And we were kind of like, both of us agreed, like, yeah, I think he's serious. You don't use speech like that if you're not serious. Like, this isn't some kind of a Playboy billionaire stunt. Like, this is serious business. And it was clear from day one that he was very lethal to the Democrat Party and a very serious contender in the Republican Party. And I don't get that kind of mojo sense from anybody in the Dem Party right now. Do you? Do you get that sense from anybody?
No, from Biden, but he's such a terrible candidate. He'll be almost 90 by the time he would finish his second term.
True.
Bernie being a year older, so Biden would be 87 by the time he would finish his 8th year as president. Bernie would be 88 years old by the time he finishes his.
Dang, man. Wow.
So, wow. I didn't tell you about this, Russ, in the pre-show call, but I saw the first article today discussing about why Michelle Obama would have a good shot.
I knew it was coming, man. Thank you for telling me that. I knew it was coming. Yeah.
Now, it wasn't like a big publication or anything, but I had a feeling that it was a feeler article. It was like, let's toss this out there and see how people respond.
It's just so interesting, and I would like to know.
You know what I mean?
Right. And I would like to know the Obama's role in whether or not they had a hand in getting that article printed for this reason. I have this distinct sense, and Limbaugh has said this too, but we said it right here in these hallowed halls before Limbaugh did, if I may say, which I do, that it's this. The Obamas are just kind of sitting there, sticking their feelers in the water, right? They want back in the White House, right? But they are not going to do it if they think that there is a chance that Michelle can't win, right? That's what they're trying to do, is figure out, really, is Michelle the chosen one, the savior, the one who can unite this fragmented party, right? But really, yes, it is about ideology always with the Obamas, but it's also about pragmatics. Can we win? You know what I mean? Because they're not going to waste that candidacy like Hillary did in 2008 and once again in 2016, and Beto did against Ted Cruz, right? They're not going to take a risk of losing that election. You know where I'm coming from, Luke? You understand what I'm saying? Yeah.
Okay.
So I wonder, literally, if they put this feeler out themselves.
I don't. I just I just found the article again, and I don't think so, because I think it's kind of a right-wing publication. It's American Thinker.
Oh, is it? It is American. Okay, yeah. American Thinker does solid work. Thank you very much, American Thinker. Seriously.
I just sent you the article.
All right, yeah. Yeah, I've got it right there. Oh, God, what a ghastly photo of her. Man,
I know.
Michael's looking bad, man. Ooh, yeah. All right, thank you very much. I'll read it. Thank you very much. So, yeah. Bless you, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I do think the way things are right now, with nobody, everybody's being hyped up, right? But the people aren't getting clearly behind one candidate, right? The left is all over the place. Right now, I mean, you've got like Rob Reiner coming out saying he's going to, Joe Biden is the man who can save, meathead, you know him. Joe Biden is the man who can save the heart and soul of our country while we're being destroyed, while our democracy is being destroyed. And so I'm going to host a fundraiser for Joe Biden. I mean, can you believe this? This leftist freak, Rob Reiner, really is going to get behind Joe Biden, right? And so, but he unironically is, So anyways, yes, there's a lot of hype, right? There's a lot of, king making and positioning going on. But nobody is rising to the top right now, man. And I do think, I agree with the premise of this article already. I do think Michelle Obama could do some business. I really do, So Yeah. See what happens.
Yeah,
man.
the Dem Sox wouldn't be too thrilled about that.
Yeah, that's true. And they would probably, if I may be so bold as to guess, would probably take a run at her. You know what I mean? Like they kind of are at Buttigieg. Buttigieg isn't like freakishly left enough for them. And so they're already saying bad things about Buttigieg and all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff, man. You know? I mean, pretty much, you know, they are Justice League Democrats right now are pretty much Bernie only at the moment, even though he's not a Justice League Democrat.
I think they're actually pretty much like Bernie Warren. Like they'd be happy with
and
Warren
maybe
too.
Kamala too.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Kamala as well. You know, and maybe I mean, they all make the platitudes to try to get the Justice League vote, but I mean, it's just such a mess. You know what? It just occurred to me, Luke. It just occurred to me. Okay, in the 2016 primaries, right? I could make sense of what was going on in the Republican Party at that point in time. It made perfect sense, right? I can kind of reason some things about what's going on with the Democrat Party in terms of what's going on with these candidates, right? But man, I cannot make sense of this election so far, these primaries at all, man. Like, it makes no sense to me whatsoever. I don't see any real strategy going on here like we did with the Republicans in 2016. You know? So, yeah. It seems to indicate that the party is so badly fractured and irreparably damaged that nothing can make sense anymore. I mean, that it's over for them, completely over. That's why it doesn't make any sense. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I 100% agree.
Yeah. Crazy, man. Crazy stuff. So... yeah, so I don't know, man. I mean, if you were to put your money on one right now, I am still on the record saying that I'm putting my money on Michelle Obama getting the nomination. If you put your money on one right now, who do you think it would be? Do you have a guess?
Biden.
I mean, it's going to change.
Yeah.
Biden? You think
Yep.
Biden? Yeah. You might be right, man. You might be right.
I mean,
Yeah. Did you hear all this stuff? Go
I was
ahead.
just going to say Biden, but it's just going to be he's just so bad of a candidate. And,
Yeah, he is.
you know, Trump says, you know, Trump talks about how old he is.
Yeah, he does. Clowns him for it pretty good. Yeah.
I've got this article here. This is, oh gosh, who put this out? This is Politico. So here we go. Joe Biden is making Donald Trump feel young again, and he's already riling up the president. The 72-year-old president stops short of saying Biden, 76, is too old to run. But on Friday, only a day after the former vice president jumped into the race, Trump suggested Biden's candidacy was rejuvenating to him and his re-election bid. Quote, "I just feel like a young man. I'm so young. I can't believe it," the president told reporters. "I'm the youngest person. I am a young, vibrant man. I look at Joe. I don't know about him. I don't know."
Oh, man. It's so funny. Good trolling, Mr. President. Shit poster in chief. Way to go. Way
So
to go.
funny, dude.
It is, man.
I don't know about him.
Yeah. Did you hear this business about Biden came out on Thursday after his video dropped, and he was all like, everybody's like, you know, why is Obama silent? Why is Obama not endorsing you? And he was like, oh yeah, I called Barack, and you know, we're so close, we're Barack America, you know, and I called him and asked him to not endorse me. Now maybe it's true, but why would you do a damn fool thing like that?
Yeah, that makes no sense at all. Something is awry.
It's stupid. Yeah. It is. Yeah. I'll tell you what my gut feeling is, and it's rather predictable, that Barack Obama has not endorsed Biden yet because he's holding the line out of the water until they make a determination about Michelle. He can't endorse Biden and then Michelle jump in the mix, right? That's what I think. So, but we'll see.
That is a good theory. That's a really good theory.
It is just theory. Yeah. So
yeah, did you? I sent you some audio. Do you want to play this audio of Biden gives This is from the Daily, or no? Well, I found this originally on the Daily Beast, but Biden on The View. This is his first.
Yeah,
and I love like the state of American politics. It's not like a reputable news source. It's like, oh, I'm going to announce for president, and then go on The View.
The View. My first campaign stop is The View.
Yeah.
So true, man.
I mean, I think it's probably because The View, it's like mostly women who watch it and overwhelmingly women, so he's like, okay, gotta go apologize for being a creeper.
Yeah, right. Oh man, there was I got to listen to a little bit of Limbaugh this week, right? And I was riding out to lunch, right? And he did this bit where he was talking about creepy Uncle Joe. He was like, I tell you what, man, if Joe Biden is smart, here's what he needs to do. He needs to throw a campaign fundraiser, right? And for $50, he'll put his hands on your shoulders. For $100, he'll whisper in your ear. For the grand donation of $150, he'll smell your hair. Guaranteed 12 seconds of hair smelling for $150. Yeah. He was like, if Biden was smart, man, he would rake it in. You know what I mean, he'd absolutely rake in the cash.
Yeah, donate like $25 and you can send a lock of hair in to the campaign headquarters, and he'll promise to smell all the locks of hair at the end of each day.
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. So, all right, so I have this audio. It's the one I have right now is Joe Biden addresses his apology to Anita Hill. Should we play that one, or should we play the one about Joe Biden explains why he's running for president, or should we just kind of sort of grab bag the entire thing? Do you have a preference for that? Well, actually, I've lost that entire clip, man. I think I closed it. Sorry about that. What do you think, man? How do we skin this?
I think that let's just play the Anita Hill clip where he's like, desperately trying to avoid apology, because if you apologize, that apologizing for something is implicitly, tacitly admitting guilt, so you can't apologize for it. But yeah, so I don't know. I just thought it was good. You should play it, dude.
All right, here it comes, coming at you.
I know something about it, believe me. We all do, okay? Yeah. You're not alone in this one.
I'm proud of my record.
Okay, so let's go to this one. This is another area that earlier this month you reached out to Anita Hill, and you personally expressed some regret to her about the way you behaved, I guess, back in 1991 when you were on the Senate committee. You didn't vote for Clarence Thomas, right?
Not only didn't I vote for Clarence Thomas, I believed her from the beginning.
Yeah.
I was against Clarence Thomas. I did everything in my power to defeat Clarence Thomas, and he's won by the smallest margin anyone ever won going on the Supreme Court.
No, this is
she was not 100% happy with your...
Oh, yeah, I couldn't get that audio, remember, because it kept ad blocking me. It kept ad shaming me out of the article.
Okay.
Yeah, and I wasn't going to turn on the ad. I wasn't going to deactivate my ad block for the Daily Beast for a minute. I mean, like, listen, like for the Daily Caller, Breitbart, Zero Hedge, yes, absolutely, I'll deactivate my ad blocker. For the Daily Beast, no. Let me see if I can get it anyway, man. I've still got the article here. Did you have it queued up? And also, you know what? When I got into the Daily Beast piece, when it finally let me in, I didn't find a clip there, man. Is there a clip in there somewhere?
Yeah, there's a clip in there for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't do it, Luke. I'm ad shamed. Sorry, man. I can't make it. Let me see if I can work something else out. Let's try a different browser here.
Yeah, I'm looking for it on YouTube. I can't find it. We should probably just move on.
Yeah. Unfortunate, man. Yep, I got ad shamed again in a different browser that has ad blocking software, man. This is a Daily Beast, man. I will give you compliments. Your content aside, you're pretty good about making you watch your ads. You're pretty good about it. I'll give you credit for that. So, yeah.
Yeah, why don't we just move on to Bernie then?
All right, let's do it. So what you got?
Well, I thought you had something on Bernie.
Well, not really anything different than what I mentioned in segment 1, but it was this business about felons being allowed to vote. And it's absolutely absurd on its face. Even like I said in segment 1, his campaign manager came out in the interviews on the next day and was like, yeah, maybe not so much that we're going to allow felons to vote, because it was so unpopular, even with the left, right? But then Bernie literally doubled down on it. I think felons should vote. This is the most important aspect of our democracy, that everybody has given their right to voice their opinion, even in prison, even for horrible people and terrorists, is what he said. He doubled down on it, you know? So like, dude, how stupid can you be? You had people eating out of your hand until that moment right there, right? And I was talking with a friend of mine who is a liberal, right, about this. And they were talking about how they thought it was a God tier move. And I was like, no, man. And it was right after it had happened. We were talking about it in text. Right after it had happened. And my liberal friend was like, oh, yeah, man, Bernie, checkmate, Bernie, Bernie bros unite, all this kind of stuff. I was like, dude, I don't think that this is going to turn out the way that you think this is going to turn out. Seriously. Well, sure enough, I was correct about that, because even the left came out right on cue like, what, are you crazy?
What was your friend's reasoning for that?
He thinks that he's a dyed-in-the-wool socialist, even though he loves his capitalism. It's a strange dichotomy with all these socialists, man. You know what I mean? His reasoning for it was justice, right? Finally, we have a president who's going to get up and be just for everybody, right? He thinks it makes him look big, right? Rather than make him look stupid, which is what it did. It made him look stupid.
Yeah, that's not justice either. That's like not the definition of the word justice. That does not fall in line with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I started texting him back. I was like, okay, yeah. So and this immediately became topical as soon as I said it to him. I was like, okay, so do you think Dylan Roof should be allowed to vote? Well, man, Dylan Roof is, he's a racist and he's, a psychopathic killer. I was like, okay, how about Bernie Madoff? You think Bernie Madoff should be allowed to vote? Well, Bernie Madoff, he's an absolute crook, right? So already the exception checking was going in, right?
Yeah, there you go.
No. They want the people who are going to reliably vote Democrat, right? And I texted him back. I was like, you know what? I really am tired of talking to you about this. I'm glad that you're happy by your boy, what the actions he took, but this is going to backfire in ways that you can't even imagine. His polling is going to go down because of this, and you have really made yourselves look stupid, because this looks like vote harvesting for the left, right? And for you,
it's not that it looks like,
I doubled down on that.
It literally is. I mean, this is a pattern now. This is a pattern of behavior. They want to lower the voting age to 16 because young people typically vote left. They want to allow illegal immigrants to vote so they can get their vote. Now they want to allow felons to vote. I mean, it just goes on and on. This is just a pattern for them. If you think that this is about justice, I don't want to say that your friend's an idiot, but this is not about justice.
No, he's actually a very intelligent guy. He's got the blinders on when it comes to Bernie. He's just
rationalizing.
Absolutely, man.
Rationalizing his way into this.
Oh yeah, man. The rationalization began immediately. As soon as you start asking about, yeah, man, I think Dylan Roof should be allowed to vote. Yeah, man, that's a good idea. Well, Dylan Roof is a racist, and blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Any case that you could throw at him, he was going to make exceptions for.
We're bigger than racism.
Right, man.
We're unifiers. Yeah. We're not dividers. We're not going to allow hate to divide us. This is about justice.
He will not divide us. Yeah, man. And so like, anyway, and I doubled, then I made the closing arguments that I just told you about, right? Like, I think this is going to blow up and backfire. I think he's going to retread. Bernie is politically savvy. So I imagine he's going to be reversing his position on this very quickly, because it's not going to go well for you and your fellow travelers, right? And he texts me back, Luke, well, it almost passed in Florida. And I was like, almost, that is.
Yeah.
Almost passed in Florida. That's the difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and like, not only that, but like, just because it almost passed in Florida it doesn't make it right. This is, again, this like very pragmatic. Again, this is just total pragmatism. It's just total pragmatic arguments. I see this stuff like on Facebook, people having Facebook debates where they're both leftists. One of them is arguing about who we can get elected, who we can get elected. In other words, one of them's arguing who could get elected. The other person is arguing who we should elect. That is, and this is the same thing. I could guess this person might also be in the camp of who we could get. What's practical? Who can we get elected? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if this individual were like on that, like, oh, okay, it's not about who we should elect, it's about who we can elect. Because we're like, well, it almost passed in Florida. Yeah. Okay, great. You didn't address any sort of a moral evaluation of that idea. You didn't address anything of actual importance. When you said that, all you just said was, I view this as categorically a good thing, and I'm happy that it almost happened in 1/50th of the country.
Yeah. Right. All while you're saying literally Dylan Roof should not be given that privilege to vote. Right. And which I agree with, man. Like, all right, let me clearly lay out my position. I cannot speak for Luke, dear listener, but my position is this. You're in jail. You don't get to vote, period. All right. Now, listen, because of this, prison is not this extended therapy, this extended rehabilitation that the left has tried to turn it into. No, prison is punishment. That's why you're in jail, is to be punished. Your freedom is taken away because you committed a crime so egregious that you're not worthy of having your freedom anymore. That's what prison is for. It's not about reform, right? Or rehabilitation or any of that kind of stuff, right? Now, you go downtown, you do your time, you commit a horrible crime, you become a Christian or a Muslim or whatever in jail, you work on the jail's library and build it up, you become a good jail citizen, you do your time. Let's say you get off early, you get 5 years off, you get off 5 years early, get back out into the public, prove that you're a good citizen over time. Okay, then maybe I would be willing to allow you to vote again. And that is a very slim maybe, right? That's just me. I don't know. What do you think about that, Luke?
About allowing criminals the right to vote?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I haven't thought too much about it, so I'm a little reticent to throw out like a full-on opinion of it. But yeah, I mean, I have no problem with not allowing people who are in jail to vote. I don't know why. I mean, we had to take your freedom of locomotion away from you. Why should you have the freedom to vote?
Right.
Now, I think the laws should be changed. I think that people shouldn't be in jail for nearly as many things as they are.
Agreed on that entirely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, the prison system needs to be fundamentally reformed. Our laws need to be reformed. And yeah, I have no problem with not allowing anybody, felons and everybody, but misdemeanors as well, while you are in jail. But afterwards, that is when your rights are restored.
Yeah, I'm somewhat amenable to that. And it's one of these things, I don't know, man. I hadn't thought about it either, and I don't think anybody's really thought about this because, like, Bernie just came out of left field with this in this town hall on Monday. Who would have thought anybody would be trying to throw this into the political discourse? So I haven't really had time to put the pen to paper about this either and spend the mental energy on it yet, I mean, I don't know either, man. I don't know. I mean, I would be amenable to somebody who has served their time that then gets out of jail and proves that they're a good citizen by not committing a crime, no recidivism within, say, 10 years, maybe 5 years. Okay.
Well, I mean, it depends on the nature of the crime back as well.
Indeed.
Yeah, I mean,
it does. Like rape, murder, any of these things. Yeah, no. You probably can't vote, man. Terrorism.
Yeah,
no.
Terrorism for sure. But
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking like, just a case of just assault or something like that, I mean, when you get out of jail, if it's like a bar fight and it's an assault charge or something, then like whatever. But
right.
Yeah, if it's rape or something like this, that's much more serious. Then yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you would have to demonstrate. I don't know. I just haven't thought too much about it. But my point that I was making was just that this is obviously disingenuous. This is obviously just vote farming. And this idea of like, well, it worked over here, it almost passed over here, doesn't mean anything. You didn't think about it at all, like at all. I mean, I haven't thought about it a lot, which is precisely why I'm not really offering much of I'm not offering a strong opinion one way or the other. But for sure, I mean, if you're going to argue that terrorists should have the right to vote, then I'm sorry, you are a lost cause.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's Bernie himself arguing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and anybody trying to justify it.
Yeah. He did double down this week on it, but I think, speaking of pragmatism and populism, he's going to stick his finger in the air, lick his finger, stick it up in the air, see which way the wind is blowing, and realize how unpopular that idea is, even with his fellow travelers. I expect Bernie to walk this back sometime soon.
I don't know, man. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And I mean, man, and Kamala Harris agreed with him in that town forum.
Yeah.
They asked her that question. She was like, I think we need to have that conversation. Conversation about what? Y'all are sitting over here talking to yourselves. There is no conversation going on about this whatsoever.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, no, we're not conversating with you about this.
The real bad thing, like the real blackpilling thing and all this, is that this just attracts more terrorism. Like when you capitulate to terrorists, that it makes them, they view you as weak, and it emboldens them to double down on their efforts to destroy you. They further think that
Same thing with illegal immigration.
That you don't have a right to exist, and that they want to kill you.
Right.
So this is like capitulating to terrorists puts us into further danger because you want to get Bernie elected, or because it almost passed in Florida. You want to embolden terrorists to go, oh my God, look how weak and pathetic they are. These people ought to be destroyed. Just because you want to farm some votes.
It's the exact same thing with illegal immigration, right? Oh, well, 400,000 got away with it last year. Why am I not going to do it? And it all goes back to what we have always said, Luke, since the very beginning. It is about the rule of law, right? When you realize that the law is flexible, it's not absolute, right? Well, then you look for ways to exploit it. You know what I mean? And if you compromise on the rule of law, you compromise on everything. Terrorism, immigration, everything, So... yeah, so I'm with you. Agreed 100%.
Yeah, dude. Well, we should move on, man. What's next?
Micheal Cohen, man. So, all right, this is what Luke wanted me to red pill him about. This is pretty good stuff. So, dear listener, Micheal Cohen got cucked hardcore by Tom Arnold this week. I've got a Daily Caller piece. I'm going to read it from the top. It goes thus. Former Trump attorney Micheal Cohen walked back parts of his plea deal for financial crimes while taking shots at fellow disgraced lawyer Michael Avenatti in a phone call secretly recorded by comedian Tom Arnold. There is no tax evasion, Cohen told Arnold on the phone call. Look at what's happening to Avenatti. It's called a karma boomerang, Cohen said on the call, which Arnold recorded on March 25th without Cohen's knowledge. The guy lied about me every single day, right? And the world loved it. Cohen pleaded guilty. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Here's the basic gestalt, okay? So Cohen was all crying. He calls up his buddy, Tom Arnold, right? This is Tom Arnold of Roseanne. Used to be married to Roseanne Arnold, okay? Used to be married to her, all right? So, Micheal Cohen needs to, take some comfort, take some solace with a buddy. He calls up Tom Arnold, and he starts bitching about how he was unfairly accused and unfairly prosecuted, and there is no tax evasion, to which he pled guilty. This is important. We're going to circle around about this, right? And then what Tom Arnold does is sits there and he's like, I know, buddy. Man, and the audio's out there. You should go listen to it. We're not going to play it because I don't exactly have it queued up right now, but I could find it pretty quick. Luke, if you want me to play it, I'll find it real quick.
Oh, it's all good.
Right? So he's like, yeah. So he's like, yeah, buddy, I know it. Keep talking. They talk for an hour and a half. Tom Arnold records the whole thing and puts it up on the internet. Oh, my God. Now, what's great about this? Okay, this is what's great. You talk about a karma boomerang, like he's talking about what happened to Michael Avenatti with the karma boomerang, because Michael Avenatti was trashing Cohen the whole time, right? He's like, you see what's happening to Michael Avenatti right now? He's gone downtown for a $25 million extortion charge of Nike. This is a karma boomerang. No, Mr. Cohen, this is a karma boomerang right here because you sold out the president. Straight up. That is what's so glorious about this story. You sold out the president, and then Tom Arnold sold you out. But what is really important about this, okay, keep in mind what the context is. This is what's important. Cohen was one of Mueller's witnesses. They got him to flip on the president, right? They got him on tax evasion, process crimes, lying to the Mueller probe, and stuff like that. But like literally right now, what Cohen is telling Tom Arnold in that second sentence right there was no tax evasion, okay? So Micheal Cohen pled guilty to something that he did not commit. Why is this? Because the Mueller probe was threatening him and his family that if he did not confess to all of these things and give them the information they want, they were going to go after his family. So he pleaded guilty to all of these things that he didn't do to keep the Mueller probe off of his family, his wife and his children. That is how ruthless the Mueller probe was right there. It's very telling, right? Man, like you get so strong-armed by Mueller that you cop guilty to something you didn't commit. That's bad business, man. That's third world politics, as Luke was just saying. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But it was pretty funny stuff, Luke. I mean, both of them are sitting there crying on the phone. And listen, and by the way, I have no love for Tom Arnold whatsoever, dude. I have despised Micheal Cohen. No love for Tom Arnold, right? You know, let him fight, you know. But I just love the fact that he sold Cohen out like that, man. Oh, my God. Cucked him hard, man. Cucked him so hard. Glorious.
That is hilarious.
Glorious. Watching the left eat itself. Yeah, watching the left eat itself is just fantastic.
Yeah, dude,
man.
totally.
Fantastic. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah.
Well, we want to move on to the second break.
Yeah, let's do it, man. So, dear listener, it was tough for break audio this week, man. We've got some major contenders, but what Luke and I settled on is we're going to play a little ditty from Ted Cruz speaking at the Committee on the Present Danger of China event, right? This happened on April the 9th. I just found out about it this week. Ted Cruz, man, he's so smart. He gives a really good speech here. It's about 17 minutes. We're not going to play the whole thing, but Luke, once again, you want to take like another 10 minutes or something like that? Take another 10-minute break? Yeah. All right, so dear listener, here's Ted Cruz for 10 minutes of real time. Thank you so much for riding with us so far. We'll be back at you before you know it.
Well, Frank, thank you very much. Thank you for your friendship and your leadership. Thank you, everyone, for being here and for addressing the vital national security challenges facing our country. These are perilous times. And I think never more so. We face grave challenges, and yet I'm encouraged that we are rising up and addressing those challenges and addressing them with strength rather than with weakness. Let me talk to you today about China. That's the focus of the discussion here. China is, in my view, and the view of many, the greatest long-term geopolitical risk the United States faces. They are the greatest risk militarily. They are the greatest risk economically, and they are the greatest risk in expanding their world influence and seeking to constrain our own. So how should we deal with that risk? Well, nobody thinks that we can sever ties with China. China is a massive trading partner. China is integrally involved in the economy, our economy and the world economy. But China's interests are not our own. And I believe we need multiple tools to combat the geopolitical and geomilitary threat that we faced. One tool is simply the light of transparency. History teaches us something, that dictatorships fear truth. Tyrannies and dictatorships always appear stronger than they are until they crumble. Why is it that mighty China was so terrified of Tiananmen Square? In my office, the Senate Russell Building, the dominant feature one sees when one walks in is an enormous painting of Ronald Reagan standing before the Brandenburg Gate. And behind him, written above in German in the style of the graffiti are the words, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. The backstory, which many people here know, is that 3 times the State Department crossed those words out of the speech. And 3 times President Reagan, with his own hands, wrote them back. And the State Department argued to him, Mr. President, you don't understand. This sentiment is far too belligerent. It's far too provocative. And Mr. President, come on, let's get serious. This sentiment is unrealistic. It will never, never, never happen. The Soviet Union cannot be defeated, and the Berlin Wall will never come to the ground. And Reagan, with a proverbial twinkle in his eye, said, you don't understand. This is the whole point of the speech. And just a couple of years later, the Berlin Wall was torn to the ground without a single shot being fired. That's the power of truth. So how does that impact communist oppression? Because they cannot stand those words, communist oppression. The apologists for the Chinese communists that we have in the media, that we have sadly in Congress, are not advancing the cause of peace, or not advancing the cause of human rights. They're not advancing the cause of truth by hiding the truth. Several years ago, I introduced into law legislation that would rename the street in front of the Chinese embassy, Liu Xiaobo Plaza, named after the Nobel Peace Laureate who was wrongfully imprisoned. Now, that's actually a strategy that I took unapologetically from Reagan, because Reagan had named the street in front of the Soviet embassy Sakharov Plaza. On exactly the same theory. You think about it, actually, that in terms of shining a light, every letter the Soviet communists had to write to their embassy, they had to write Sakharov Plaza if they wanted it to get there. In today's world, on the website, if you want to tell people how to get to the embassy, you got to put the address. So that legislation, when I introduced it, there were a series of times I rose and asked unanimous consent to pass it in the Senate. And there was a series of times that Senator Feinstein stood up and objected. And she and I debated vigorously on the Senate floor. Well, one of the things one learns in Washington is there are various levers of influence and power. And so, one of the tools that I had at my disposal that I used is I placed a hold on every State Department nominee. Said, we're done confirming State Department nominees until this gets through. Well, that dismayed a lot of people. And I said, listen, I'm perfectly willing to be reasonable. I'm perfectly willing to cut a deal, pass my legislation, and I'll lift the hold. They came back and said, well, how about we just pass a resolution? I said, that's an interesting idea. Let me repeat the deal again. Pass my legislation, and I'll lift the hold. Well, at the end of the day, what did the Senate do? It passed my legislation, and I lifted the hold. Now, that ended up not passing in the House. It was sadly blocked by a House Republican, I might note. But it was blocked in the House, and so it didn't pass into law. So if you go to the Chinese embassy today, it is not located on Liu Xiaobo Plaza. But I'll tell you something very interesting. Fast forward to the Trump administration. The Chinese government, when they laid out their top priorities, right at the top of the list is preventing that cruise legislation from passing into law. I remember having breakfast with Rex Tillerson at the State Department. He was shaking his head. He couldn't understand it, but for whatever reason, China, when they were talking to him, front and center is do not let that legislation pass. Now, at the time, Liu Xiaobo had passed. But his widow, Liu Xia, was still in China, was prevented from leaving China, was prevented from going and getting the proceeds of the Nobel Peace Prize that he had won. And so I told Rex very simply, I said, all right, I'll tell you what. Tell China to let Liu Xia go. If you let her go, I'll relent and stop pushing the legislation. But if they don't let her go, they'll see me continue to push it, and I'll point out I passed it once. And I have many faults, but lack of tenaciousness is not one of them. Well, I can tell you after considerable pressure, both public and private, China finally relented and released Liu Xia. Now, look, at some level, people might say, oh, come on, we're talking about a street sign. No, we're not. We're talking about shining a light into darkness. Some years ago, I had the opportunity to sit down with Natan Sharansky, the famed Soviet dissident. He and I visited in Jerusalem. He described to me how in the Gulag, they would pass from cell to cell notes. Did you hear what President Reagan said? Evil empire, ash heap of history. Tear down this wall. You come to my office. There is a silk painting of me that was given to my office, that was made by dissidents in North Korea who had smuggled it out. Now, I've never been to North Korea. When each of you are speaking, you may not think your voice is penetrating beyond the Beltway. But just as with the Soviet Gulag, shining a light on evil and oppression is heard in the very darkest of hellholes.
Welcome back to episode number 36, dear listener. 36. Luke and Russ with you. We are about to close this show out strong. We have 2 more topics to cover. By the way, Russ, I love that. I'm really enjoying Ted Cruz.
Yeah, man.
He's got the beard going on. His power level is increasing over time. His power level is up and to the right, which makes both of us happy.
Yep.
And so anyways, very high energy, very white pilling.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're on to the lifestyle challenge, dude. Do you want to get yours out of the way first?
Dang, man, I have nothing to report. I didn't get on the yoga mat. I didn't do anything, dude. And listen, I worked like a dog this week, and it is. I did not have the bandwidth to do what I wanted to do. Some of it was expected, some of it was unexpected. And listen, I know it's excuse making. I understand this, dear listener. I get it, right? Nonetheless, it simply was not possible for me to do what I needed to do this week, including simple, basic things like going to the grocery store, right? Like I haven't grocery shopped yet, right? Going to the liquor store. I'm digging into the reserves right now. This blackened is reserved whiskey, right? Because I wasn't able to go to the liquor store and get new whiskey, right?
Oh, man. Well, that means, yeah, you were super busy there.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah, And, it was my mom's birthday, just all kinds of things compounded, but most of all, it was work. My apologies, man. I'm going to make it great again next week. I promise.
All right. Yeah, no worries, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, the lifestyle challenge isn't here to shame anybody.
True.
Lifestyle shame anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah,
we won't do that here. Yeah, on my side, I've been doing pretty well. Worked out all week. Didn't work out today, so this will already be 2 days off this week. Tomorrow's going to be tough. Depending on when we finish recording, I might be able to lift before we leave for Amsterdam.
Good.
And then I'll have to take Monday off because we don't in Europe, like I'm a part of like a more, I don't even know if they have like European wide gym companies like Gold Gym. It's sort of like, or 24-hour fitness, how you can just go to any 24-hour fitness in the country.
Yeah.
I don't think you can do that here. I don't like my gym is like regional. There's like 20 locations, but it's regional. So when I go up to Amsterdam, I won't have a gym. So I might just like do some push-ups and sit-ups and stuff. I don't know, squats and
yeah.
But anyways, so yeah, I'll pick it back up on Tuesday. So that'll be up to 3 days off this week. Hopefully only 2 though.
Yeah.
And Yeah, so things are going pretty well.
Good, man. Proud of
on
you.
my side.
Seriously.
Yeah, dude. I'm getting to the point now where it's like those, you hit when you're lifting, you hit a stride where you can really punish yourself for an hour and it becomes an enjoyable activity.
Yeah.
And I'm approaching that. I think I'm like 2 to 3 weeks away. I think right at the end of the lifestyle challenge, I will have successfully transitioned my body back into a 6 to 7 hours of lifting per week threshold.
Good, man.
Is that the right word? Capacity.
Yeah, capacity. That's
for
it.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
good, man.
And enjoy it. So
yeah. Which
clothes are fitting better.
Good, yeah, man. Yeah. And actually, I will say that, my clothes are fitting a little bit better. I mean, I haven't done laundry this week, so I'm having to flip my underwear inside out and rewear it seriously. But I've been doing a lot of walking this week, Luke. Like, I've had to walk everywhere, right? So I am noticing the same thing in terms of clothes are fitting better. Gut is not so, well, I mean, I don't really have a gut, but it's decreased, you know what I mean? So I've gotten exercise just from doing work, my job, you know what I mean? So that's good, you know what I mean? I'll take it.
Your butt to gut ratio has decreased?
It has. It has. Yeah.
Dude, in college, this is so bad, but like in college, we used to like talk about girls like having a butt to gut ratio.
Yeah.
You just reminded me of that. I hadn't thought about that in like 10 years.
Yeah, totally, man. Totally. But like, dear listener, all right, true story. There's one thing I want to tell you. Like, I've known Luke for a really long time, man. We started the politics business on Aggie Muster back in 2013, but we've known each other longer than that even. I think going back to, 2011? Something like that? So I think it's about 2011, right in there.
Yeah, dude. We met when I first moved to San Francisco. And that was 2011. Yeah, that was the fall of 2011 when I moved to San Francisco.
Yeah. And, we always hung out, drank a lot of beer and whiskey, watched Aggie games together and stuff like that with a large group of friends, which we hold dear to this very day. Not so much in touch with anymore, but I am in touch with numerous, and Luke is as well. But everybody's well, you know what I mean? People get busy. That's what's up. But the story I want to tell, all right, dear listener, the happiest I've ever heard Luke ever in the world besides doing this show in these hallowed halls is Luke at the gym. When Luke gets into the gym, he beasts out and he is so happy. Like he's like a kid in a candy store in a gym, right? Robert's the same way, man, but not quite like Luke. You know what I mean? Like Luke, you just reached this new level of just clarity, happiness, lust for life when you get in the gym. It's really fun to watch, man. It's fun to lift with you.
That's so bizarre, man. I never even realized I was like that. But I mean, I think that's the proper, first of all, I appreciate the compliments, but I think that's the proper way to understand how working out, like if you are properly integrated, in other words, if your psychology and your emotions and your, I don't know if I'd say cognitive philosophy, but like your sort of like conscious philosophy, if like all of those things are neatly aligned and understood around whatever it is you're doing, then it will be, then you know why you're doing it, and therefore you can experience it the way it ought to be experienced.
Straight up.
Which is pleasure and joy and happiness.
Straight up, brother. And that is what the lifestyle challenge is about right there, man. You know what I mean? I regret that I'm cucking like this on it because I'm missing out on this happiness, man. You know, these little bundles of love of workouts every day, man. I truly regret it, you know? So
yeah, these people, Dan and I, we talk about this, but you know, there's a lot of like fitness people out there where they're like, you know, it's almost a sadistic activity where it's like you have to love the pain, you know, it's suffering. And you have to grind it out each day. And, you know, but at the end of the day, it's going to be worth it. But you need to go suffer. And you got to have that discipline. And like a lot, you know, there's like these motivational
right.
You know, YouTube cuts where it's like, you know, people like, and like there's like dramatic music playing in the background with like a voiceover of like David Goggins, you know, like it's suffer and you have to push through it. You have to push through it. You got to find that inner you, and they're like, and it's so miserable. Like, no, it doesn't have to be like that. You can be properly integrated and it can be an enjoyable activity.
Yeah.
An enjoyable, life affirming activity.
Yeah, man.
If you are properly integrated, your emotions and your psychology and your values, and you know why you are doing it, in an act of affirming one's own life and trying to live the best that you can. You should be excited to go to the gym, and if you aren't excited to go to the gym, you haven't thought about it enough. You haven't aligned your emotions with the facts of reality well enough. There's a disparity between your emotional state and the facts of reality, and you need to integrate the two and get those in line with each other. And then something like being at the gym is this incredibly life-affirming activity that you derive a lot of happiness from.
Yeah. Case in point, like when Luke and Robert and I would go to the gym, or just Robert and I, or just Luke and I, or Luke and Robert, we would laugh. We would just go and laugh.
Oh, God. Robert and I, dude, we had the time of our life at the gym.
Straight up.
We laughed more at the gym than we did at the bar afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except when Robert started pee-coughing. Then it just
then it's all over. Yeah, dear listener, we know that you haven't heard it yet, but like when Robert does the Leonard Peikoff, oh my God, it is one of the greatest things I've ever seen, man, ever.
Yeah,
ever.
It's not. He's not mocking him. It's an endearing sort of compliment,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's so funny because Robert just nails it.
Hey, man, you know something? Let me tell you something about epistemology.
Oh, God, dude.
Kidding, Robert. Kidding. Just kidding. Just trying to get you back in the house, man. Just trying to have some fun.
But yeah. I mean, Robert and I, we talked about this, and you too, Russ. I asked you one time. I was like, "What's the happiest you've ever been?" And you were like, "When I was going to the gym with Robert every day."
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because I taught Robert how to lift. Robert taught you how to lift.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
yeah. And we all lifted together. I mean, like numerous times, dude. As we could. It was usually like Saturdays and stuff like that. But you and I were hitting that 24-hour over there on 2nd Street quite a bit. We'd go hit the gym and then go out. We disciplined ourselves enough to not just get out of work and go drink. We would go to that 24-hour there for a while, man. We stayed on it for a good couple of months, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So fun stuff, man. Fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I'm approaching with the lifestyle challenge. We're on week 5 now, and I'm approaching that point at which I can really get in there and just beast it out, and it's not a slog anymore.
Yeah, right. I get it. I know. I totally get it, man. Improvement. That's the purpose of the lifestyle challenge, man. Just improve. So yeah.
All right, dude. Well, enough of that, man. Let's go on to Grab Bag Special. What do you say?
Yeah, man, let's do it. All right, so I got a couple announcements before we get into Grab Bag. First and foremost, the Dallas Stars have just defeated the St. Louis Blues 4-2. Why was it 4-2? There was an empty net goal. The Blues pulled their goalie. Stars capitalized. Fantastic. Way to go, Dallas Stars. Announcement number 2, no Botstad this week, dear listener, and my sincerest apologies. I really wanted to record Bots, Thoughts, and Drops. It simply wasn't possible. There was no time to do it. I'm going to make it great again next week. I don't know when, but probably around the end of the week next week. But man, I've just been chomping at the bit to get on HSP, just like we were last week after our week off. And, because... man, my life has been deprived of me this week, Luke. I'm not kidding. And that's not because of my mom's birthday, none whatsoever. It's just because I've been so busy. You know what I mean? So, look for another Bots sometime next week. My apologies. I'll get back on it. And I had hella Bots.
Yeah,
Luke and I took the top of the stack. We did pretty good with the top of the stack this week. There is so much going on bottom of the stack. Some of it funny, some of it triggering. I don't know if it'll even be sticky enough to talk about next week, but I mean, there will be more fake news to talk about next week, so don't sweat it. Don't sweat it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just patiently waiting for the Democratic primaries to get underway. I cannot wait for that, dude.
I know it. I know, man. I know. It's going to be so good. Yeah, and man, we're gonna have to live stream those, man. We're gonna have to find a way to make that great again beforehand. We need to start working on this now, man. We need to start working on it.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only going to be so many that we can live stream because some of them are like 2 a.m. on a Tuesday for me or something like this.
True.
In fact, I think most of them are.
Probably.
So
yeah.
I don't know how that's going to work. We're going to have to figure something out.
We'll do it. And Trump rallies, man. I mean, Democrat primaries, Democrat debates, and Trump rallies. Oh, my Lord. I cannot wait. Please, please let us get there ASAP. But not too soon, because remember what we said earlier. It's not election season yet, right? Because we don't want the Biden rule invoked on us about, like, if something unfortunately happens to RBG and Trump can't replace RBG because it's election season. This is our premise about that. So it's not election season proper.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Yes.
She's got to hang on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, man. So I've got the clip, man. You wanna talk about what this GBS is?
We give the listener the rundown.
Yeah. The rundown.
Yeah. So this is a Dave Rubin clip. I saw it pop up a couple days ago. It looked pretty interesting. I don't know how interesting it's going to be. But it is Israel and the Virtue of Nationalism is the name of the video. It's a guy named Yoram Hazony. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, as I have a reputation, a history of pronouncing names wrong.
But you don't know, dear listener, because you don't know how it's pronounced either. You said that last week, Luke, and I'm still laughing about that.
That's entirely true, though. I didn't get any feedback about that.
Yeah. I actually really didn't get any feedback about the show this week, man. It was a quiet week as far as feedback goes.
That's good. Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
Well, Yoram Hazony is the president of the Herzl Institute, and he is discussing with Dave Rubin on how Israel, there's a terrible, terrible typo. Dave Rubin, we know you listen to the show. You have a terrible typo in this first sentence. It reads, Yoram Hazony, president of Herzl Institute, joins Dave to discuss how Israel is stronger than ever while the USA and England are struggling. And then now it's a run-on because now it's just a comma and not a period.
Yeah.
His new book, The Virtue of Nationalism, Free Speech and More.
Dang.
Oh, actually, no, that's not a run-on sentence. It's just an awkwardly phrased sentence.
Yeah.
So anyways.
Yeah, it was dead from the is bit right there, which is the typo. If you didn't notice it, dear listener, that's it. Is Israel is stronger, man. It's unfortunate, Mr. Rubin. It's unfortunate, but it's okay.
Yeah.
We forget. We love you anyways, man. It's all good. It's all good. But we do call these things out to make our fellow travelers stronger together. That's what this is all about.
Indeed. Absolutely.
All right, so what you think, man? It is an hour and 6 minutes and 24 seconds. What do you think? Where do you want to jump into this, man?
When I tried to QA a little bit, it seemed like the first 15 minutes they still weren't talking about anything. So jump to like minute 25.
Minute 25. All right, hovering over it. I'm at 24:57, coming at you right now.
Most of what's in the American Bill of Rights is these traditional English rights, which were not developed by liberals. They were developed by conservatives fighting against the authoritarianism of, let's say, the Stuarts. So when we talk about conservatism, we're not talking about there's one set of ideas that are eternally always true. We're talking about a tradition of a certain nation or group of nations, which by trial and error, right, so it's empirical, right? By trial and error over centuries, over thousands of years, in fact, have succeeded in developing and stumbling upon things that are just spectacular and that are kind of a gift to the rest of mankind. And today, what we're seeing is that the educational institutions, rather than saying, look, let's take a look at the traditions of this nation, and the thousands of years of development, going all the way back to the Bible. Let's see how it contributed to the things that we care about. That's what a conservative would do. Would say, what contributed to the things we care about, and how can we strengthen those strands in the tradition, both nationally and also in our personal lives? How can we live as conservative people who raise children to respect the things that should be respected? That's what.
Okay, I'm gonna have to stop it right there. He's just gonna repeat himself a little bit. I really liked what he said, Luke. I only have one minor quibble, and that is this. He says that these European principles that emigrated rather, over to the United States and formed themselves in the form of the Constitution were the product of conservatives. This is factually incorrect. They were classical liberals. That is classical liberalism. These were radical ideas back in that day. They were not conservative ideas. It was change, right? Now, for him to look back in this and call it conservatism through a retroactive lens is a false premise. Outside of that, I have no quibble with what he said.
That was actually, I almost called you to stop the clip right there for the very same reason. Yeah, he was like, basically what he said the Bill of Rights were developed not by liberals. It was developed by conservatives. Yeah. Well, newsflash: the Conservative Party did not exist then. So that's
exactly
utterly factually incorrect on its face.
Just so.
Secondly, no, they did not. The Bill of Rights in the Constitution, the ideas that gave rise to that they were not derived from conservatism. They were derived from Enlightenment philosophers.
Indeed.
And which in turn was derived from Greek philosophers.
Yes, sir.
So the Scottish Enlightenment, mostly, but also the French Enlightenment as well.
Yes, sir.
So conservatism is like very political. The Constitution is a philosophical document.
That's it. Well said. That's exactly it. Yes.
So he's trying to hamster conservatism into this sort of like, we look back and we view what worked, and then we try to strengthen that, and that's what conservatism is.
Right.
And that's just a total rationalization.
Yes, sir.
Total hamsters on the wheel, squeaking away.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well said. Good call. Good call.
His problem is that the wheel needs to be oiled. It's squeaking too loud.
Yeah. Right.
Right. But no, seriously, that's just complete nonsense. It's just it's philosophical ideas. It comes from Scottish Enlightenment, French Enlightenment, Enlightenment philosophers, Locke. The Enlightenment philosophers, Locke, Voltaire. Oh my God, dude, I'm tired and my mind is not at 100%.
Are you thinking of Adam Smith? Is that who you're
Adam
thinking
Smith?
of?
Yes, of course. Yeah. I mean, that's where these ideas come from. They didn't come from concern. I love it. I love it when people try to pull this. They're like, every little like philosophical encampment tries to like co-opt the birth of the United States to their own little,
right. Right.
Their own little, it could be religion or sects, or denominations of a religion, or in this case, he's trying to co-opt it and say conservatives did it. It's like, no, I mean, read the Founding Fathers. It's very clear. They got their ideas from the Enlightenment philosophers, and they got their ideas from the Greek philosophers. It's not that complicated. Like that's obviously it's more detailed than that. It's more nuanced than that, but that's the highest level understanding.
Yeah. Fair point, man. Well said. True. 100% true.
And then he was going on about something else, and I was just like, oh God, she's just totally off the rails now, but I can't remember what it was.
Well, it was this hamster wheeling about conservatism, right? Like trying to configure the United States in terms of a conservative founding, right? And he was a little bit repetitive. That's probably why you don't remember it. You know what I mean? Because you know, yeah, yeah. He got a little bit lost in there, but I mean, like again, I don't disagree with what he said. I just disagree with the frame he drew around it. You know what I mean? So that's all.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much just disagree with what he said, just factually.
Well, yeah, it's factually incorrect,
Yeah.
So, Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's see what else he has to say. Why don't we jump to like minute 40, 45, something like that.
All right. Here is 40 minutes and 40 seconds. It's so elegant. I just ghost hovered over it and it was 40:40. So how about that? Does that sound good?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, coming at you.
Who are they're just as crazy against any kind of indications of nationalism and national independence in the UK as they are in America. So it's not, Trump didn't cause this craziness. Trump is actually more of an effect than he is a cause. The craziness predates him. The craziness begins with, I mean, it has a long history, but let's say roughly. The craziness begins roughly in 1989 when the Soviet Union falls, the Berlin Wall falls, and America, which had spent most of its, not all, but most of its 2 centuries of independence arguing for the virtue of independent nations, right? Being mostly on that side of things, right? When the Americans were broadcasting their radio broadcasts into Europe during World War II, what were they broadcasting? They're broadcasting, you've been conquered by like the evil empire, and we're coming to free the nations of Europe so that then they will be able to live independently. That was like,
we're not coming to make our little satellite
right.
nations.
Well, we're not coming to be, a better empire to conquer you and rule you. Right? So at the time it was clear, and I think most
people probably don't realize how incredibly unique that is, right? That a country would go halfway across the world.
We can stop there.
Yeah, I disagree with every last bit of that, man. What you got?
Trump started when Reagan went to the Berlin Wall.
Right. Yeah. It's stupid on its face, dude. Yeah.
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 I mean, in that case, like, shouldn't David Hasselhoff be president today?
Yeah. 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 But really, the craziness, man, all right, how about McCarthyism? Did the craziness not start with McCarthyism? Did the craziness not really start in the 1920s with Bolshevism in the Frankfurt School? Did the craziness not start in 1965 with the Hart-Celler Act? There is no way to draw a beginning to where what he calls the, quote, craziness begins. It began in 1776 before the Constitution was ever even written, man. You know what I mean? We've detailed this numerous times on HSP. It goes way, way, way back, right? This is not, he's right in his premise about it's not Trump didn't create this. Trump is an effect of it. That's true, right?
Yeah, I was pretty much on board at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. But then, go ahead.
I was going to say, but then when he went back to like, oh, really? This started back when the Berlin Wall fell. And I was just like, no, what the hell are you talking about? Like, no, Trump isn't the effect, the cause of the Trump effect is neocons, really.
Yeah. Good point, man. Yeah.
Which that is early 2000s compassionate conservatives.
Yeah. That's yet another starting point right there. You know what I mean? There are numerous arbitrary starting points here, but like what you're talking about, I think is the most salient one, man. The Blob Party, the founding of the Blob Party in, shoot, man, I might even call this like 1992, 1996.
Yeah, George
I
H.W.
mean? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
totally. So, but I mean, you have to understand how some of these people think. They're like, it's when I hear somebody going on tangents like he's doing, where he's talking about the Trump effect, it originated here in the 80s, and then he's jumping to World War II, and then he's going on, and then Dave Rubin asks a question or says something, and then he doesn't stop to say, no, hold on, let me finish making my point. Then he had no point. He's just rambling.
Right.
And God, there's so many thinkers out there that do this. Jordan Peterson does it. Slavoj Žižek does it. We saw that last week in last week's Grab Bag special. It's all fact and no value.
Yep.
That's it. They're just like fact. And then you're supposed to just sort of absorb some sort of value from that. But like, it's not like this is the fact and this is the value, the valuation we can derive from the existence of that fact.
Right.
And this is why we are deriving this kind of a value from it. It's just like, just endless spilling of one fact after the next. And a lot of these, and this is very Socratic. Socrates he was like, if, wisdom is the end in itself. Knowledge is the end in itself. If you know, then you'll do right. And that's presupposing some sense of rationality, some sense of code of ethics that you've figured out. That, like, in other words, what he's doing is he's divorcing fact from value. Socrates is saying, like, well, if you just know, then you'll know what to do. Well, no, I mean, you know certain things, but then you have to decide what to do based upon those things. And what you want to do is informed by all kinds of other values, which that is ethics now at that point. So Socrates, when he says that, he's just like all epistemology and no morality. In other words, all fact and no value. And a lot of these thinkers, like most of the intellectual dark web, Eric Weinstein, for example, Jordan Peterson, they are all fact, no value. They are all epistemology, no morality. It's like, we're not going to tell you what to do. That's for you to figure out. But here's the facts.
Right.
And I'm gonna dazzle you with my array of facts over the course of the next 2 hours. And I get really annoyed by this. And this guy just reminds me of that when he's just going on about World War II and the Nazis, and we went over there for this. And first of all, I don't even think any of that's true. I dispute that even. But secondly, it's like, okay, like, when you're supposed to tie all this together and make some sort of a moral evaluation as to what the course of action should be based upon all of that, Dave Rubin answers a question and you don't even bother to redirect.
Yeah. Just so.
So that's a good red flag to look out for. If they're giving all facts no value, no course of action, no, you should do this, therefore, then that's a red flag.
Yes, sir.
All of this is ought. They're all about the is. They're all is and no ought.
Yeah. Right.
Well, what do you think, dude? Does that call it for episode 36? I'd be down.
Yeah, I could do another drop, but I think that we've nailed this one. I think we get the whole point of everything about this. So I say we ride on into the sunset, man. Set up camp, get comfy, cook some food, and meet up with us there, dear listener. We're going to be right there waiting on you.
Let's do it, man.
All right. Well, dear listener, thank you so much for riding along with us. I hope you enjoyed this show as much as Luke and I did putting it down. 37, man. Prime number episode coming up in the house. No pressure.
Indeed, man. A couple more weeks, We'll be on 40.
Yeah, indeed, man. Yes, sir. Well, listen, brother, y'all have a great trip to Amsterdam. Y'all be careful. And, I'll be thinking about you, man.
All right. Sounds good, dude. Peace.
Later.